See, the problem with that, Zach, is if we tell them who the Colts are going to draft, they're going to know we got the script ahead of time, and that's going to really be, oh, welcome back to the Dynasty Grind. My name's Peter Howard at Peter Howdy on Twitter. This is a Dynasty podcast we do every Wednesday, just answering any and all questions and comments that might come into all comment boxes on whatever streaming platform you happen to be watching. So drop them in those comment boxes and we'll chat about Dynasty for as long as we can, or as long as you have questions. It's usually about 3 hours to around midnight. Tomorrow, something's going on that everyone's really excited about, but to us, it's just another Wednesday, right? Dynasty Outhouse can't make it with us this week. He is doing a 2-day event. I don't know if he's not taking breaks, but his network is putting on a live stream for day one tomorrow, so be sure to check that out if you're missing some Dynasty Outhouse, and it'll probably turn up on the DLF stream at some point as well. So you won't be on Outhouse for the next few days. Just don't worry about it. But let's go talk to Zach at least. Hey, Zach, how's it going?
Oh, fantastic, Peter. We're here. It's Christmas Eve, right? We're right on the precipice of the NFL draft. Feeling good about it.
Yeah, I want to be excited, and I am, but I also know like they're not like real presents. We're not.
You're getting socks again.
It's not. Yeah, it's not like our rookie draft where you get to make a pick. It's like, oh, they went to that team, which I guess I don't know, probably means something. Like it's like I don't know. You want it to be like the movie Draft Day, and instead it's like the movie Draft Day. If that makes any sense, and it's all very disappointing. But yeah, I know. Should be some fun. Definitely some surprises. What's new with you? Any trades? I haven't been able to get any trades done since this week started.
No. I've been trying I've got a rookie draft going that we do in one of Outhouse's leagues pre-NFL draft, and everybody in that league is way too smart for me and way too good at trading.
I know that feeling.
And so I just am kind of battening down the hatches and try to make my picks as they come, and it's been ugly.
It's not working. No.
I mean I ended up with Kayshon Boutte in the third round, so that ought to tell you where we're at.
I mean, that's not terrible.
No, I hope
that could be good. Anyway, let's see who's in the chat. Logan's been here since 6:42. Hello, Logan. Do your rookie models, I'm the only one with them, but okay, include any of the confidence estimate, like 95% confidence intervals, etc. And 2 wide receivers have 95th percentile profiles, but one has much tighter range of projected outcomes. I have played around with upside, downside, or actually modeling wide receivers with different skill sets in terms of how much they use in the slot. But no, I don't get that sophisticated on it, mainly because I don't think models do an accurate job of creating ranks. They give you an idea. Typically, these days, I lean into models projecting players I know weren't actually good profiles well, because they're leaning on similar things, and that can help with draft capital. Like Terrence Marshall currently scores fairly well in my model, even though like I think I was the only guy who didn't like him, because I'd rather see how well players compare based on some fairly decent signal across different metrics, and then break down the profile myself to form a better opinion of it. And so I see it as a 2-step process these days. That kind of attitude or that kind of process is trying to rank better through the model. I want a model to give me an estimate of how well they compare, and then I want to make decisions, which isn't necessarily better or perfect, but it's the way I prefer to do it. But that is a sound process. Someone better at stats than me has to do it. Tyler Reese, who do you all think is the right pick at the 105? Levis, Gibbs, JSN. Say team for each is a good team. For whoever they're going to draft, who would you go for? So a net neutral, decent team. Who are you taking at the 105? Assuming this is Superflex, JSN probably still isn't there at the 5. Gibbs would be my preference over Levis, even though we don't know the draft yet. That affects a lot, but I think I lean Gibbs over Levis no matter what, because I like to take my own shots, and I think Gibbs is above average prospect, and Levis he could be Drew Lock. He's solid. And despite the positional value, I want the potential DeAndre Swift.
So you think we're at the portion of the program where Jackson Smith and Jigba is taken in the top 4? Is that what
I
you're?
think yeah, I know with the quarterbacks mixed in, it's going to be rough, but I think it's going to be difficult to get JSN outside the top 4.
Yeah.
So if JSN is there, JSN is picked.
Yeah, and that was kind of my Tyler. I think that if Jackson Smith and Jigba is there, it's him. If he has gone and you're at 105, that other quarterback of Richardson, who would be my 101. I know, Peter, you and I kind of diverge on that one, but Young and Stroud, like I would take any of those 3 over Gibbs and Levis, but it would be JSN, Gibbs, Levis for me. And I think Levis is probably that, assuming he goes where the rumors are saying he goes, where he goes in the top 10, he probably becomes the 107, maybe 108. I mean, it depends on where Addison lands. I mean, I could see taking Jordan Addison over him if Addison gets first round capital, even second round capital.
Where JSN is a 6 overall pick in Superflex rookie ADP. That's going behind Gibbs, though. It goes Robinson, Stroud, Young, Richardson, which I understand, Gibbs, and then JSN. Here's the thing. When you look at the disagreements, like JSN is consistently 5th or 6th, whereas Gibbs ranges from 4th to 7th. And I think thinking about your league, there is going to be more hype and more interested in taking JSN in most leagues, I think, because he's the elite wide receiver prospect over the second best running back prospect. But again, if your league leans running back, they might go there. And I also think DLF ADP is getting better in that it doesn't undervalue the quarterback nearly as badly. I still think leagues kind of do. So I'll tell you the same thing I tell everyone that asks me my mentions, whether the quarterback or the position player that I prefer. Best dynasty answer is take the quarterback. It's Levis. It sucks. You're hoping for Drew Luck. When the player's awesome. The player's going to be great. We're going to enjoy watching the player. This is not a player take. But for fantasy, I don't expect, that upside pick of even Tua at a Levis. I'm hoping he's just an undervalued quarterback in most leagues because he's a starter and has a job for the next 3 years. That's what I think Levis can provide us in fantasy. And most of the time we're undervaluing that still, so you should probably take the quarterback. But I take JSN or Gibbs because I see more upside in that, and I'm willing to play the short-time upside. So the positional advantage that Gibbs and JSN, I think, can provide me. And I want to take shots in the rookie draft. But the best dynasty answer is in Superflex position. It's a one-time position matters. We say don't draft the position of need for your team. But in Superflex, you should break ties towards, or even anything close towards the quarterback, because typically they're undervalued. But I think ADP is a little too sharp for that. I think in most leagues you're gonna get away with taking a Gibbs or a JSN, and there'll be a Levis or someone that falls to the end of the first round, I think. But yeah, ADP says right now that JSN and Gibbs go above Levis, so it's agreeing with. Sorry, well, that was a bit of a rant. But I want to get it out. That seems to be the crux. Like looking at ADP this year, it's a big ADP, even in 1 QB leagues, loves the quarterbacks relative to other draft classes. It's taken 2 in the top 10 when it hasn't taken 1 in the top 10 ever since 2014 in 1 QB leagues. So quarterbacks are a big decision this year.
Huh. I still think that's wild in 1 quarterback league. Like,
yeah, right.
I'm not interested. Like even when Lamar Jackson came out, like he to me was like an early, like a 203, 204 in that class, and he's probably the single most excited I've been about a quarterback prospect for fantasy in the time I've been doing it.
It's keeping in perspective. One, we have to value what we don't value at quarterback a little bit more. That's just a generic dynasty thing, but. Like, I don't look at Stroud and Young and think Herbert and Mahomes and Burrow. I think we could get a Tua, or maybe the first few years of Lawrence. And that's great. That's awesome. But that's not when I want to go. That's not the excitement this ADP is reaching. And maybe I'm just wrong. I don't do a lot of quarterback evaluation. I don't know. Maybe they're all Burrow for us, I know. Tyler, again, also the 111. I trade out or what prospects are good to select in that spot. I'm debating on getting out of it. Do you want to go first?
Yeah,
I'm
so
ranting and raving.
I,
As
I
excited
think
as I am.
I think Tyler, the 111 is a spot that I would be trying to trade out of. And I think I could trade down as far as like 204 or 205 in a 12-team Superflex league and be just as happy with the player that I get there as the player that I get at 111. And so if I can get anything on top of that, 203, 204, 205 to give up my 111, I'm going to be really happy about that. The one caveat I will have is if Hendon Hooker gets drafted into the first round, that adds another quarterback somewhere in that range that could be interesting. But my estimation, and I did the Dynasty Dummies podcast last week on doing this, is if you could trade into anywhere from the 207 to the 210, I think those picks are being really undervalued. I mean, the 111 to the 107 to the 110, not two. But those next couple of picks, those next probably 6 or 7 picks are all another tier for me. So if I can get up into the Quentin Johnson, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, Will Levis tier, yeah, I'm in. If I'm after that, I think there's quite a tier break, and I'm willing to take, any of the next probably 6 or 7 players, anywhere from 110 to all the way down to 204. So that's what I'd be looking at.
I'd say trying to do that now is the move. Like Zach's right. You've got to think about tiers when thinking about this in the generic. Because we could say wait till you're on the clock, and if Quentin Johnson falls, take him. And if he did, it would suck to have traded out of that. But if you want to trade back, that's a solid tier. Like the 110 to the 205 is a really solid tier, which means on the clock, the closer you get to your pick, the more people are gonna be in that, realizing that. So you kind of want to trade back now, or if it gets to the draft time, you're just hoping someone falls. In that range, like I'm higher on Josh Downs, and so he's the one at the top of that range for me. But all the way down through that tier, you've got Devin A-Chain, you've got Hendon Hooker if he gets drafted highly, and this is a super flex. Tank Bigsby, I really like. Dalton Kincaid is in that range. You've got a lot of running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers that honestly I like. And so trading back's a good idea. But the closer it gets to your draft, the more you're probably going to have to see, in my experience, who falls or whether you can. Because if you're on the clock, I know everyone says, wait till you're on the clock, you get the best deal. I find when you're on the clock, people are most aware of what's available. And it's harder to get a move that you might see coming, if you know what I mean. And trading back is one of those moves. I think that's going to be a solid tier. So try and trade back now. And if you don't, it's a really good range to be in. Just take the best player. But try and trade back now is the other thing I'd add. Yeah.
See, yeah, trading back.
Do you not find that on the clock trades have never worked well?
So trading back on the clock is really good when you have a premium pick because people are moving up to go take.
You got the 101.
Yeah, yes. But if you're down in a range where you're in the second round or late first, and there's a whole bunch of players that people are like, well, I'd be happy with taking them, but I don't have a real strong feeling about, then all of a sudden your leverage of being on the clock isn't really there, which is, again, why I'm making moves now to go acquire picks in the range where I want to be. I mean, we did a whole show last week about you got to get in early. You got to do it now because as soon as the draft happens, everything kind of solidifies. We're going to have a real kind of consensus to it. And a lot of people are going to be talking about this, the 110 to the 204 being like, well, it's a tier. It doesn't really matter. And after that, it's already too late to make that move.
And the other thing is, I think you said it as well. Like the first move I try and do is try to go up. That's to your point. Get in the range that you want. So add your second to that 11. Try and get up into the top 4 or the top 8 again.
Top 8 is great.
Or try and trade back if that's not possible. Like every league's different. They might just be waiting and seeing or whatever. But yeah, that first, and then I try and trade back now. And the closer it gets to my draft, the more I'm expecting to just have to make the best pick. But you can always keep looking. Randy, 12-team PPR Superflex start 9. Sent the 212, the 24 first, 24 second, Khalil Herbert, MVS, sent the house, basically. DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, and Austin Eckler. I missed the 4. That's how much it was in there. So let me try this again. The 212, a 24 first, a 24 second, and Khalil Herbert, and MVS, who does not matter, for DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, and Austin Eckler. So basically, you sent a first and 2 seconds and a decent depth running back for 2 aging wide receiver starters and a top 5 running back. Yeah, I think that's pretty good for a team that's competitive. He says his roster now is Dak, Deshaun Watson, Akers, Eckler, Cooper, Deontay, Hopkins, Allen Green. Yeah, your team definitely has to try and win this year. But you've also got the 4 and the 6. So again, you've got a balance there. Your team's not dead if you don't win, but you're definitely pushing to win. And in that regard, I think this is a good trade.
Yeah, I think the only thing that hurts to give up is the 24 first. Like that
But
literally,
that's
like out of that entire package, that's the only thing that hurts me.
And I would say Eckler for a 24 first is even, and the rest for, I prefer Hopkins and Allen. But again, you're bleeding value for more points.
Yep.
But those are some, especially with Eckler involved, those are some hefty points, so I like it, yeah. Especially since you've got the 4 and the 6 anyway. Again, you're balanced, you're going all in, but you still have some really high premium picks there. So, yeah, I like that trade. Randy, 12-team Superflex PPR. Would you send the 106, the 2, the 3, the 6, the 7 in the second round, and the 10? Like a bunch of second-round picks. The 6 is too high for me to trade back for plethora. But you're going to take a lot of shots on running back, maybe tight end, so I appreciate it. But the 6, especially in the Superflex, that's just too... That's not enough. I need something juicier on the other side to trade for a top 6 pick. Like, that's at least a top 3 quarterback, Jahmyr Gibbs, JSN. It won't be Bijan Robinson, but you're getting like a top 3 quarterback or one of those 2 players. And that's worth more to me than a depth of, you're going to get a guy in there that's pretty good, maybe 2.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, Peter. Is just playing the numbers. You have a better chance, or at least the same chance of hitting with the 106 as you do with the 202, 203, 206, 207.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a better chance of having a player that is, sticking around and being, because chances are a team invested draft capital in that guy that you're drafting at the 106. Like Jackson Smith and Jigba Gibbs, they're going to have some pretty hefty investment, which ought to give them multiple chances to succeed, which ought to be good for your fantasy team long term.
To be fair, you've gotten so many second-round picks in this draft class where there are so many decent running back shots and tight end shots, which hold value or at least create points in there early, so you'll know pretty quick, that I think it's even. I think he did even it out. It's just in general, I'm trying to trade up in rookie drafts rather than trade back, but you got just about enough in this specific class, the 2, the 3, the 6, the 7, and the 10, that you're probably not going to be, hopefully, unless, everything goes tits up and all those guys miss, you're probably going to be okay. I would say, especially if you're trying to compete, like your last message suggested, those are going to be running backs, so they might be more useful this year. I get it. I don't think it's a terrible trade, but in general, it's not the type of trade I go looking for. But you probably got just enough to make it fair. Cannot wait for the draft. You're gonna have to, Genji, but thank you. And Randy, the draft is my favorite holiday. Would be great if it was a holiday. When the draft started on Saturday, I would take my wife to the mall. What are those? No idea. Have never heard of those. Give her my credit card and pick her up 8 hours later. It's expensive, but oh so fun. Yeah. Okay.
That's worth it. That's a pro move, Randy.
Everyone's going to have their own interests, even in a relationship. Need time off. B-Dags, 12-team Superflex start 10, 6 points per passing touchdown. Would you trade the 107, the 207 to move up to the 105? It's not that far. It's kind of across the tier, though. It's close. Like, so, if that was the 4, I'd be like, oh, okay, I understand that. Yeah. But the 7? The 5.
I would trade the 207 and the 107 to move up to the 105, regardless of whether I got a quarterback or not. So if JSN gets taken and you get one of Richardson, Stroud, Young, you're happy at 105. If not, you end up with Jackson Smith and Jigba at 105, which I would rather have than whatever I'm getting at 107 anyway.
I think that's what's triggering me here. If you were just moving up to get in a tier, I'd be like, okay, you that's what I like doing in rookie drafts. If you couldn't get the 4, but you could get the 5, this is fine. But if you specifically need a quarterback, like, you're gonna have to be free to take the best player.
Right.
But I like the move. I like, that's what I try. Not that I'm successful all the time, but try to do in rookie drafts. Try and get into that tier that you want. Yeah.
And the other thing is, you make this trade, get the 105, and if there is not a quarterback on the clock that you like at 105, all of a sudden your 105 is actually going to be worth something to somebody looking to trade into either get Gibbs or JSN, because that'll be the pick. And so you may be able to finagle the 105 and get a quarterback who's already in the NFL, not necessarily a rookie quarterback. So I would make this trade regardless of what I do with it. But I want you to know that you have multiple avenues to succeed from the 105, and more avenues to succeed from the 105 than you do from the 107 plus the 207.
Yes, sir. Brian Martin, 12-team 1 QB start 8, traded the 101, for the 103, the 4, and the 6, and 1, 3. So you traded back from the 1, essentially, for the 3, the 4, and also the 206 and the 303.
One quarterback, you absolutely sold yourself short.
If this was a super flex, this is a difference. We'd be able to say, well, you can draft 2 quarterbacks and that's solid. Right. One of them is decent, and then you definitely haven't. That's good. You've added depth to your roster at a better position. But in a one, this is why I don't like trading back in rookie drafts in general. Because while the idea works, like, you've got more for less, and in typical startup drafts, that's kind of the average strategy that works the best, to be honest. But in a rookie draft, like, this works in theory, but the hit rates are so terrible.
Yeah.
Like, I love my 3rd, 4th, 14th, and 32nd player off the board. I think they're going to hit, but I know how often they don't, and that worries me in a rookie draft.
And probably, so best case scenario, you end up with what? Jackson Smith and Jigba and Jordan Addison, something like that, at 103, 104. And I'd still, especially in a one quarterback start,
probably Addison and Gibbs, but yeah.
Yeah, but in a 1 quarterback start 8, I'd still rather have Bijan.
Yeah, the 8 team, the start 8 really affects it as well for me.
No.
Don't be downhearted, Brian.
Yeah, so don't beat yourself up.
You're gonna have a more fun draft. You have more choices. Like, no rookie FOMO for you. But the 101 is hard to trade in a lot of leagues. Like, he's so valuable, and everyone's like, how could it possibly pay off? But, like, I want to toe the line. I think it's gonna. And so
I pooched
that's
one.
where I'm at.
I pooched one. I had an offer for 104, 110, and a 24 first, and I probably should have taken it, and I couldn't pull the trigger.
Yeah, yeah, it's rough. I have 101. No one sent any offers. I have sent no offers. I want too much. They know I want too much. It's just gonna take him.
Yeah,
it's been a league that I've been building him for a while, and I think it's about ready to compete anyway. So I'm like, I probably need that guy. I've got Breece Hall. Add Gibbs to him. Wide receiver depth is typically good. I've got Lawrence, Dak Prescott, and a 2 QB best ball draft too. So
that's not a bad place to be.
I think I might be competitive enough that I should just take Bijan Robinson. But it is tempting now and again. Send some offers. Rank the top 4 rookie QBs in Dynasty.
We're gonna have a different rookie rank. QBs. We're gonna have a different rank because I go.
Here's the thing.
I go Richardson because I think that his ceiling is higher than the other 3. Then I go Young. Then I go Stroud. Then it's if Hendon Hooker gets drafted in the top 15, it's Hendon Hooker and then Levis. If not, it's Levis is fine. I don't dislike Levis. I just don't see him being a top 12 quarterback and so it's hard for me to be really excited about getting him. So he's my 4.
I've got to re-rank because I've been playing because I have not been evaluating quarterbacks that I haven't done it. But in my pin database and stuff, I included my rank receipts. I took them out for the off season, I guess, for Patreons and stuff. But I just put them in because it's so much more fun and better to be able to just say, here are all my ranks, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I would have it, and I'm gonna correct that when we get off stream. Sorry, hang on. Yeah, I think you're right. Like I was saying about Stroud and Young, I'm hoping for Tua. I'm hoping for Lawrence, which is a phenomenal result. That's no shade. I typically don't think Mahomes, Stroud, or what Josh Allen became when I'm ranking quarterbacks or thinking about quarterbacks. Like, I don't want to set the expectation that high. But there are some. Mahomes is someone that actually stood out to me. Hurts didn't, but does now, because I've learned to be better, so on and so forth. But still, the uncertainty of Richardson and my tendencies in draft put it Stroud, Young, then Richardson. 4th, I don't really have a 4th. I'm going to be honest with you. I can make one up. I like the talk around Will Levis. It seems solid. But I don't have a strong feeling. It's just going to be draft capital, and I think he's solid. So it'll be those 4 in that order. But here's the thing. I think Zach's right. Because it's a rookie draft and you aim for upside, Richardson probably should be the first quarterback. So what that tells me is I kind of want out of that decision as best as I can because it's a solid process. You should really go for Richardson, especially if you're drafting a rookie quarterback high in a rookie draft. Like, that's the potential that I can find. Like, Stroud, Young look like they're going to be Lawrence and Tua, great, but not Burrow and Herbert. I can't see those coming very well in general. So I try to trade into quarterbacks I already know about. So at that position, I'm interested in adding something on their side to Lance. I want Lance and something for that pick, or trade out for Dak, or in some way trying to get into a quarterback I have more certainty around because it's so important in Superflex. But yeah, my ranks are Stroud, Young, and Richardson. Stroud and Young are flip a coin, especially considering my weakness at evaluating quarterbacks, with a strong note that Richardson definitely has the most upside that we can see. But he has to be a better passer. I've been reading some really interesting threads today about him. I don't know if he's good at passing. That's my problem. Like, Stroud and Young, both accurate, good, solid, proven, capable, above average passes. That's what I feel confident on, with decent levels of rushing. But again, like Tua, like Lawrence, that double-digit rushing percentage. Anthony Richardson threw the ball 330 times his entire time in college. Like, I don't know if he's good. If he is with those legs, then we are talking Hurts, then we are talking Lamar, both of which proved it in college because they simply passed more. His stats look bad, but they're based on such a small sample. I don't know. It's essentially my problem. And if I don't know something, I don't know it. I'm not going to pretend. Sorry, this took way too long. Yeah, Stroud, Young, Richardson, and then Levis. Rob Z, best football food: pizza, wings, barbecue, other. I just like wings in general. Actually, if I had to choose one, I like wings a lot. But pizza's probably a better all-round food. It's less messy. You can do it while you're watching the TV.
Just
easier
food.
To clean off your hands.
Food. Feed me.
Yeah, just anything but celery.
Even that. It's all good.
Let's
go.
Not good. Can't be friends. Todd Brand make it. It is presents for those who did pre-draft drafts. Actually, yeah, it's probably a lot more present. Like, find out what happens to the players you've already drafted. I don't know if that'd be better or worse.
It's less Todd like presents and more like opening a package of Bertie Bott's every flavor bean, where you're hoping that you're getting the good ones, but inevitably there are some like liver and tripe, and alas, earwax.
Right. Alas. Yeah. Harry Potter references. James Jones, 10-man start 10 PPR Superflex. Traded Jordan Love for the 106. Love it. Getting a first for Love is a clear win. anyone who managed to hold on till now is probably getting the best deals on Love as well. And there is a lesson there. Like, I don't know what to do with it, but we kind of expected Aaron Rodgers to move on eventually this offseason, whether it was in draft or after the draft. And you're probably getting better trades for him now than when it was assumed. So, yeah, definitely a cash out situation. Brian, on a rebuild, and it's PPR. That was
the start eight.
Yeah.
Yep, the one quarterback.
I get it, but if I'm
no, you're
in that context,
exactly
it's better.
Yeah.
In that context, it's better, but I want to add 24 picks. Again, that's the building thing. Like, I want more shots more often. I'm not as interested in this year's draft if I'm building, so I can, like, I don't know, keep the 3, give me the 4, give me a 24 first, and I don't have to worry about the depth of the second and third. I'd even be happy with that. More first rounds better than more picks, even though they are sooner. But again, that does make it a better trade. Definitely. Logan B, would you treat the tight end position? How would you treat the tight end position in 0.5 PPR Superflex start 11 startup with 1 point tight end premium? 1.5 tight end premium would have said it. Appreciate that, but not required. Oh, you don't have to start a tight end, but there's a 1.5 tight end premium. That means you get to forget all tight ends except for the top 3.
Yep.
If you don't have to start a tight end, then suddenly none matter apart from Kelsey, Andrews, and maybe Waller because he could do it, and maybe Pitts because he'll be valued like he could do it, and Kittle. That's it.
I don't even
flexible.
I don't even know that I'd go after Pitts. I want the guys who are already putting up points rather than the guy that I hope puts up points, especially in a league where you don't have to start a tight end. What I would do, Logan, is regardless of what platform you're playing on. So if you're on MFL, you can there's a tab that you can get into that gives you the previous season's points for whatever your league settings are. Like, I would look at that on whatever platform I'm playing and see where Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, where those tight ends scored with regard to wide receivers and running backs, because that's really what you're playing them as. You're playing them as a flex play. It's not a tight end play. So see how they stack up against those other, positions, the running back and receiver positions, to see where you would actually draft them with that premium.
So I'm playing with my ranks. Basically, you just merge them with wide receiver, even though they're not wide receivers, and rank them according to their points, but like they were the wide receivers. And what you'll find is, like, there's only a couple that matter, and those are the only ones that matter. Matt Foreman, Peter, who are some of the players that you are targeting in the mid-section of rookie drafts? What's a mid-section?
Mid-second.
Good question. Mid-second? Am I reading it wrong?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, Matt.
I haven't done a big board. I tend to do that after the draft because, let's face it, I'm waiting till after the draft. But I haven't breaking down ADP a lot.
I'm waiting for you to scream Tank Bigsby. That's what I'm waiting
middle
for.
of the second round. You're looking. There's a tier break just before the center of it. So you've got a thick group of 4 running backs, and I want Tank Bigsby in there. That's the guy that stands out to me a lot. I think Dalton Kincaid's going to go a little before that, so he doesn't count. But I'm interested in tight ends there. So you've got maybe Sam Laporta. Could be achievable in the 3rd round, depending where he goes in the draft, though. But right now, I like him as a mid-second round pick, and those are the 2 that stand out to me a lot, as well as the other Tank Dell, the wide receiver. Again, these aren't necessarily the best draft picks at the 2.5, but if you're talking about that range and lower, those are the players I'm really gunning for, and that's the way I'm playing this draft. Like, there are 4 players outside the quarterback position that I strongly want, and then there are a few that I definitely will take. I like Josh Downs. I like Quentin Johnson. They're 2 difference makers in the next section. And then after that, you've just kind of got it's open season. And so I want running backs, tanks, the best one I think that we've got left. Then we've got Roshan Johnson as well. After that, you've got Sam Laporta and Tank Dell. But both of those last two may well be third-round picks, so I'm not sure they're an answer to your question. Marvin Mims and Cedric Tillman, probably higher than both of those two, and could easily be mid-second round picks that I'd be highly interested in as well. Keyshawn Booty's got to fit in somewhere, but you said you got him in the third round, right?
Yeah, I got him at 301 in the 12 team to start because Laporta went the pick before. I was keeping my fingers crossed for Laporta, but it didn't happen.
Yeah. Those are the names. I did have it written. I'm saving it for the big board that I do, but I do have specific players I want in different sections, and those are the names that occur to me off the top of my head. But they're probably more than just mid-second, in some cases. Senior Long Johnson, how do you guys approach leagues where you are completely competing and looking to upgrade starters, but all the win-win pieces are already on other contenders? I know it's kind of like saying how do you run a race without legs? Like, if you're saying everyone that you want to target to win is unattainable, then there's nothing you can do. What I would say is there are probably other players that are potentially good for points that you might be overlooking. That could be a way we could answer the question. Anyone concurring to that? I think George Kittle is infinitely available right now based on his price. If you have a decent tight end, like I've traded Dallas Goedert, who I think is great. It's a great tight end. A second to Dallas Goedert to get George Kittle on teams where I want points. And I think he's going to play for 3 years. Like, I'm not concerned he's going to retire like some. And tight ends play for a long time anyway. That, to me, is a way of getting a player that might not seem like a points bet, and you're giving up another great tight end. But George Kittle standing out to me a lot. Aaron Jones, he might not seem like a win-now player or a winning player, but all he does is score fantasy points. I don't see how Green Bay move away from him now that they lost the best quarterback that they're likely to have for a while. And even if Jordan Love is pretty decent, that's good for Aaron Jones. And I don't think him being less than Aaron Rodgers is going to be worse for Aaron Jones. And he's done nothing but fall in value because running back and old, and he's available too right now. I know a lot of people might be more willing to cut Rashad White or Tyler Algier in those kind of mindset. I want points. These guys are undervalued. I want the proven producers if I'm going for points. Like, I'm not willing to bet Rashad White's who I hoped he was. I want Aaron Jones. I want George Kittle.
And the other move you could make is, instead of looking for the older value players who score points, you can tier up too. Like, you can go to a team that is either in a rebuild or is a non-contender that has somebody like Chase Jefferson, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb. Like, if there are players like that on other teams, yeah, you're going to have to pay for it. But it's worth making that move because not only do you add points, but you also get the long-term. So contending doesn't necessarily mean your team has to be old. Like, traditionally, traditionally the older players who are still producing are undervalued, and that's why it's good to add them to your contending team. But
like the Hopkins and Keenan Allen trade we saw earlier, that makes sense when you're looking for points. It does.
But you can also be a contender if you have Jalen Waddle. Like, Jalen Waddle can make you a contender or keep you at a contender, and you can maybe condense, 2 players and go and move up to Waddle, and that actually helps you out long term, but also helps you stay competitive. So there are multiple ways to attack it. My guess is, and Peter, you're probably right, there are going to be players on other teams who are not competitive who can help you. It's just a matter of figuring out who they are and what you need and how to go acquire them. Running backs are also a great way to do this. So if you have a deeper bench and you can stack running backs who are not necessarily starters, or if you can, in this draft class, add second-round picks and do the same thing, where you're adding running backs who have the chance to come in and make some hay at some point during the season. You don't necessarily have to be full strength when you come into this season. You have to be full strength when you're headed into the playoffs. So you got some time to play with this.
No, that's a good point, especially in this draft. If you want to be competitive and in your situation, you just can't. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jalen Waddle, like none of them are on teams that will trade them. They're all competing, whatever. Then you have to start thinking outside the box. One way, like I said, is to try and tack some players that I think maybe are undervalued as that type of player, Aaron Jones, George Kittle, or just attack the onesie positions. Look for that top 5 upside at quarterback. Look for that top 2 upside at tight end, because that can be undervalued, especially in a 1 QB league or a regular league where there isn't a tight end premium, or even there, sometimes the upside of Waller might be underrated. The upside of Kittle, Kelsey, even at his age, could be underrated. So attacking the onesie positions is one way to go. And I think, Zach, that's probably the best next one I can think of. Like tack 2nd and 3rd round picks. We think of those as deep shots for value, like trying to snag, the underrated sleeper of this draft. But most of those guys are point scorers who don't last very long. It's Donald Mooney who flashed for a minute. It's running backs who work their way into opportunity unexpectedly in their first year. So you can try and find points there too. Not because you're looking for the deep sleeper, but because you're going to get a plethora of good prospect, young profile running backs or tight ends for that matter, and just throw them at the wall and hope to catch one that sticks, because there's probably going to be a couple. Roshan Johnson this year. Yep. Tank Bigsby, who I happen to like, and so on and so forth. So that might be another way of approaching it too. Good idea, Zach. X-Brain bursts, I think. It's really tiny writing when it comes up here, okay? I don't know what to take. Will you guys be live streaming the draft? And if so, what platform can we watch you guys on? Zach, do your thing first.
The Dynasty Dummies are gonna do day 2. You can watch us on YouTube at the Dynasty Dummies page, or on Twitter. We'll be there too. So you can find my handle or the Dynasty Dummies handle, and we'll tweet that out. But we're day 2, and I think, Peter, you're gonna come hang out for a little bit.
Yeah, on day 2, I'm going to be on that stream whenever I can be. I have a family, so and we don't make great plans. It just tends to be, hey, we're meant to be here right now, and I'll be like, oh, okay. But I will be there on day 2, especially in the evenings. We don't go anywhere at night. Like, they're all the sidewalks up here at night, so I'll be there late. To talk about what has happened and what is happening on day 2. Day 1, Russ, who's not here today, is doing that Trade Addicts podcast live stream. He's asked me to come on there, and I would love to, because I want somewhere to go. So I'm going to be on there for a while. I'm trying to get him to stream that to my Twitch and YouTube, so he'll be able to find it in the exact same place, because I think that would be neat. Whether I'm there or not, it would still be going there. And that way anyone paying attention to my Twitch or YouTube actually gets draft day coverage, whether I'm available or not that day as well. I thought that was a cheap and easy way of doing that for myself. And hopefully they can meet a few new people that might follow my accounts and don't necessarily watch the Trade Addicts podcast, which they should. And Tyler FF Creator asked me to go on day 1. I think I meant to be on his live stream after 10 on day 1, 10 p.m. EST. So I'm not exactly sure where. I think he's got a YouTube channel too, so I'm sure it's going there, and I should be there for a while. I'm going to try and be as many places as possible, and if it's going live to my stream, it'll probably hit the DLF stream too, so long as we're not double booking like we are with Addison tonight or something. So pay attention to my Twitter feed to be sure, so I'm always going to send those links out, but you can probably find me on my own YouTube and my own Twitch account. Sean, how you doing, Sean? Sorry, I don't want to murder your second name. 14 teams, top 10, 1 QB. Bajon or Tyreek and the 103. That's a pretty decent trade. Oh, it's 1 QB. Okay, it's just an okay trade. I think it's Bajon Robinson, but it's close enough. Tyreek is interesting enough.
Yeah, I don't mind that, because I think you're getting. I mean, Tyreek Hill, especially we're assuming PPR, like that's not out of the realm of, and again, 14 team, you get a top 10 wide receiver, plus you get a 103. Maybe you end up with JSN. You end up
Tyreek Hill and Swift versus Barkley, younger in both cases. So, yeah. That seems fair. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's a good trade. I just want the shiny thing.
I'm not upset on either side of this trade. Whichever side, Sean, you're on, I'm going to be happy with.
Assuming Gibbs and Bijan go round 1 to the Bengals, both of them, and the Eagles. Okay. What are your dream landing spots for potential day 2 running backs? Who do you want to see go where? I really don't predict the draft. Like, I stopped even guessing these things because it's just a road to disappointment, really. Don't have them. I have landing spots that I don't want to see running backs go to, mostly. But that's because I don't want Aaron Jones to have company. Like I just said, I'm kind of in on him in 2023, and I would like that not to be in question. I don't want Bijan Robinson to go to a team with a Christian McCaffrey or a Saquon Barkley on it. So those are 2 landing spots I don't like. And that's mostly the way I approach it. Outside of that, I think good players are going to get volume and they're going to perform pretty well. Yeah, that's all I got.
So, yeah, I mean, but you're looking for somebody like Abanaconda to go to a team that likes to zone block. So like the Falcons or the Bears or Miami, something like that, like those type of teams. But Peter said it where we're just kind of waiting to see. It's not, I feel like if you hope, you get hurt. We've done this long enough that you're like, oh, yeah, and it's never quite how you see it going in your head. And
here's one.
And so,
I have been gazing at some mocks because I'm getting bored at this point. Zach Charbonnet to Buffalo at 59th overall. Like everything about that's good, apart from the fact that landing behind Josh Allen is probably more negative, but the team's also good, so that's positive.
And but they also have Cook and Damian Harris that they just what are you doing? Like
I would favor Zach Charbonnet. He's the one with the upside, right? But yeah, that's the problem. Like both of them have been solid profiles, and Josh Allen is the running back you want. So you could also say there's that level of you don't want him to go to. Having said that, Jalen Hurts worked well with Sanders because of his skill set being more receiving. Like there's not a bad place for a place like Miles Sanders or Jahmyr Gibbs, because of the nature of their skill set.
But that was a weird, like they ran Sanders. Like Sanders only caught 24 balls. Like he didn't do well in the receiving game. They just happened to run him 250 times last year, which is a big time aberration for what they have traditionally done with their running backs.
Got a lot of touchdowns,
and
I always remember around the time I stopped even trying to care was Josh Jacobs. He had this great receiving profile, and he was just used as a runner for the first 3 years, and everyone was like, oh, he's just about to catch. And the one thing we know is when teams are saying this year he's finally going to catch, he's not going to catch, which is this weird mind screw of this guy used to do it in college. They watched him catch in college and then went like, we'll draft him really highly and then never do that.
No.
Like, I don't... So, yeah, and that would seem like a good landing spot. The team needed a running back. The team wasn't great, but it was investing in skill positions. We know the guy could catch, so he had this decent skill set that could really work there. And he did do good, but without receiving them, it was the weirdest thing. Landing spots, even when they're great, can sometimes suck. I'm just saying. Sorry. Jeff Jacobs. I made a big move today. I'm tanking for the 2024 101. I want to score as few points as possible. You're in the right place. That's what we always end up doing. I mean, send Justin Herbert, get Kyler Murray. Okay, I was going to say no, but that made it interesting. 25 first and second. I see the logic here. I think there's a little bit more risk in Herbert that's getting paid for here, though. Like, I think Kyler Murray's a decent buy for the exact same reasons you're describing him as good in this trade, but he could struggle to come back, and the team could do something weird. And just a single first in the Superflex to go from Herbert to a guy who should come back to being a top 12 quarterback, but there is suddenly risk. Like a single first doesn't seem like enough. I like the idea, though. I do like the idea. I see what
the fact that it's a 25 first too, so it's 2 years out.
25,
is tough. It's not a bad trade. The theory is sound, but Peter's right. Like there's a lot more risk.
So shiny.
there's a lot more risk in Kyler Murray.
You can
than
lose
there is
with
in Justin
Herbert with no risk. You know, it's not bad. I don't necessarily like tanking, but if it's not against the rules, it's not against the rules in your league, and that's fine. And Kyler Murray, like, I really like trading for Kyler Murray right now in all Dynasty formats. So it's solid. I just think you needed a little bit more consolation, but apparently it wasn't possible. So, I mean, you're rolling the dice. At least you know the risk you're taking, right? As long as you're aware that risk exists, it's your team. But Justin Herbert is so shiny. Sean Deegan. 10-team Superflex half-point PPR, start 10. Rebuilding team and was approached about the following offer. Get Garrett Wilson and the 102, hefty. Give the 10, the 205, 224 first. Okay, there it is. And the 2 first to someone else's, which gives us some context. Which is
I'd rather have Wilson in the 102.
I think that's good. I think Wilson on the 102 is worth that. That's basically
Wilson and the quarterback of your choice. Yeah.
And those 2 players should each be worth 2 firsts. Yeah, I think this is a walk-off win. It took me a second, but yeah, I like this a lot. Good deal, Sean. Tyler Reeves. So would you rather go 111 and the 207 and trade up to the 107 range, or just run with the 207 and try to trade the 111 into early second? I see what you're saying, Tyler. And my first move, what I want to happen is to get the 7. That's the one I prefer of all the things you're offering here. I'd rather have the 7th overall pick. But trading back is possible, especially in your situation, and it's not a bad alternative because not every move is possible in every league. I myself get that impression listening to podcasts where people do moves, and I'm like, why can't I get this stuff done? It's important to pivot to what your league's willing to do. Like, it's that simple. The 4, 5, 6, and 7 just they want too much, or they're not willing to do it, or they're waiting for the draft. It cannot be possible. But that would be my first option, to try and go get the 7. Rather than to trade back. But trading back is also an option. Just be aware that with rookie drafts, there's more risk in that trading back. You want more picks, preferably some later draft capital that can't diminish in value to insulate you from the risk of a rookie draft. That's kind of why I always try and include 24 picks or the next year's picks when I'm trading back. It's because I can easily miss. Give me 10 picks. I can easily miss with all 10 because I suck. You don't suck, so you'll be fine. But I know I can miss with 10 straight shots. And so I want something that's not going to decrease in value for the next year. So I know I haven't just completely fouled my team, if you know what I mean. But yeah, 10 picks is probably an exaggeration. Even I can probably hit with 5, but still. A to Z, pulled off a trade. Peter, okay. I okayed this one, so you have to like it. Dynasty Superflex, 1 point PPR. Give away the 108 and DJ Moore for Kyler Murray in the 306. Yeah, that was one of the trades I was thinking of with the last guy who said he was trading for Kyler Murray. So, what do you think, Zach?
No,
I thought in a Superflex this was an easy one.
Yeah, that's a smash. You know, you are getting the risk discount by giving away 108 and DJ Moore. Like I'd do that.
Yes, sir. Especially in a Superflex, like the 108 might be Levis.
Yeah, but even if it's again, like that's going to make whoever you traded with feel better, but it doesn't actually help you. Yeah. So I'd rather have Murray.
It probably shouldn't be Levis, but it might be Levis. But I would still, even if that's a quarterback, that's what I was saying, or Herndon Hooker, who gets surprise top 20 draft capital. I'm rather Murray by quite a bit. Sean Deegan. He's talking to Sean, so we won't eavesdrop. Tyler Reeves. I've seen stuff to where. Sorry, I can't read. I've seen stuff to where, like a Charbonnet, Roschon Johnson, or Tajay Spears at the end of the first with good draft capital. Like if drafted by the Cowboys, for example. I actually think this is a point I was warning about, unless I'm trying to warn about in my last round of ADP evaluation. The draft is telling us not to reach on those running backs. I think that's what ADP is saying. Not Tajay Spears is bad with a good landing spot, or Roschon Johnson isn't great. But it's strongly pushing them to the early second and then just grouping them. Like just take whichever one you like the best or that is available. The landing spot, because there's always someone that gets that late first round draft capital because of landing spot or because of whatever. And I think ADP right now is saying there's a weakness in this class where there's and we should really be looking to get in the second round, not the late first. But that's me.
Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I may be, but this is how I kind of look at draft capital and the draft, where it is a lot more apt to affect my evaluations negatively than it is positive.
Okay.
So if a player doesn't get draft capital, I know that I'm moving them down substantially. That was the Tyler Johnson, that sort of thing, where if they don't get first 3-round capital, it's a nosedive. Now, if somebody gets first round capital that I think is good, that doesn't change my evaluation of them. I did not, and I'm gonna humble brag a little bit here because I'm kind of proud of it. I did not move Clyde Edwards-Helaire up to the first overall pick when he was taken in the first round. I already had established my running back hierarchy, the top 5 in that class, and him going in the first round didn't really change what I thought about him. It didn't change what I thought about Jonathan Taylor. It didn't change what I thought about Swift. So, like, that sort of thing, I'm a lot less apt to get really excited about a player that the NFL gives draft capital. Like, my evaluation of their talent still stands. That just means they're going to get more chances to succeed with the talent they have, as opposed to it necessarily meaning they have more talent.
This is part of. I don't know. I'm gonna go about it this way, just so we can talk about this draft a little bit. It's Drew Lock and Will Levis, that type of quarterback. The way I'm going to frame this, like, I don't like him. I don't like him now, to be honest with you. Not as people, obviously. But the fact that the NFL drafted Drew Lock so highly meant I should consider him as a pretty high first round pick. And that's what we're talking about, not undervaluing quarterbacks and superflex as well. It doesn't mean I still don't like him. It's just being humble enough to go, well, they're going to give him opportunity. He played in college. He's got a skill set like only 5% of the population. He can do stuff. And so you adjust to the draft, but you still maintain your opinion. Like I'm saying about this quarterback class, like the ADP is saying these quarterbacks are important. Make decisions about these quarterbacks. And my answer so far has been, I want to get out of those decisions. And it's because I'm accepting, like, ADP probably knows more than I do. The NFL probably knows more than I do, but it's going to spend like 4 top 5 picks on quarterbacks. I want out at value because I don't know a way of making a decision there. So it's not, you just got to do the best move you can, adjusting to what the draft tells you. Henry Ruggs went really high. He did a lot of good things in college. I still didn't believe in him, but I was willing to know that he should be drafted in the late first. So if I get faced with that decision, I'm probably going to try and trade out of it or try and trade up away from it just because I don't know enough. You value him like the NFL says you should do, but you still stick to your own profile, or that's what I do anyway. Is that another way of saying what you were saying? Because that's basically mostly what I do. I just rephrase things you say. It works.
No, I and again, like, I think we're in a similar place. But I don't. So if Will Levis gets drafted in the top 6 picks, that does not change my evaluation of Will Levis. Right. It doesn't suddenly move him up 2 tiers. He's still in the same tier for me, but it also means that he's like solid. Like, I think I would take him solidly at 108. Like, he doesn't move above the tier that I have with JSN, Gibbs, and Addison, but he is the next player on the board. He goes ahead of that second tier of running backs and the second tier of receivers for me. So, like, that's how. Oh no, go ahead.
We can frame this positively or negatively to make yourself sound better. And so let me do both so that I sound neutral. That's my favorite. This happened to me last year. David Bell got decent draft capital, which meant I knew he wasn't going to fall unnaturally to me where I wanted to take him. And in one league, I wanted to draft him, but I only had a late first round pick, and I offered everyone all the way back to like the 205, I think it was, give me a 3rd round pick, and I will move all the way back down there because I wanted to take David Bell. That's me trying to stick by my profile. no one would do it, so I ended up taking David Bell too early. I want to respect that David Bell shouldn't be valued at my pick, and I should take Christian Watson. I should value him there. But ultimately, I want to make my decision, which was the best idea was to trade back. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't trade back, so I overdrafted David Bell, lost out on Christian Watson. So that's me trying to apply it in real time and it not working out for me. I overdrafted David Bell because I couldn't trade back. But I knew Christian Watson should be taken there. It doesn't change my evaluation, though. I still prefer David Bell, and I didn't have another chance to take him, so I just took it. And a way of framing it positively might be Addison and Quentin Johnson this year. I think Quentin Johnson's really good. He's got a really good profile. He should do well in the NFL. I prefer Addison significantly more. If Quentin Johnson, because of his skill set, is a slightly more outside, I think, gets higher draft capital, as I think the current mocks are suggesting, I still want Addison. So I'm going to be trying to trade back to where I think I have to be to get Addison. One of the few times I'm trying to trade back in a rookie draft. Because I want to respect Quentin Johnson. I think he's good. But I prefer Addison, so I'll try and trade back. But if I can't, and this is kind of the habit I try to teach my league mates, like if you won't give me a third or something to move back, I'm just going to take Jordan Addison. That's not making the best dynasty decision. I should probably just take Quentin Johnson. But the best way I can merge me wanting to make decisions on my profiles and respecting that Quentin Johnson in that case should probably be valued more is to try and trade back. But I'm still targeting the players I want based on what I think of them. If that puts it in practice, again, if that puts it in practice to how I try and merge the two, there's no one answer to me. I want to respect the value, but I still want to make the choices that I think I have come to, if that makes sense. Does that do it? No? Okay.
Yeah.
And it's the same with these running backs, which is where we started. I think they should be really early, really solid. I think there should be 5 or 6 running backs drafted really in the second round. I want to trade into that range rather than I want to overdraft one because of a landing spot. That's tends to be where I'm at.
And to me, 2 out of those 3 running backs are right at the back end of the first round anyway. Like Charbonnet and Roschon Johnson are pretty close to being, again, it's that range that we talked about from 110 to 206, 205. Like they're in that range.
Right.
So
I'll probably get close to it. Roschon Johnson, I'm taking a lot on faith, so it's kind of a lie to say he's there for me. But I like his size, I like what he did, and I believe the tape profiles I've heard.
Well, and again, if he gets capital, like that's the other piece of it. Is
and if he gets capital, there's nothing to hold you back from trying. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I could see that. Tank Bigsby, I really like, but I want to take him where he's being taken. Again, just trying to respect the ADP, respect the draft. Okay. Joe McCarthy, I traded the 110 and the 201 for what I strongly believe is a top 3 pick in 24. If it is, do I win that trade?
Yes, because you got a quarterback. Yeah.
No problem, man. And they're just thoughts. You got to play your own draft. It's meant to be fun, so do what's fun. It's another way of thinking about it. Cypher, love you guys. Thanks for the show. Thank you, Cypher, for checking it out. 10 teams who flex Dynasty, PPR, start 11. Traded Dan Jones, which is a fun way of saying that. I will say Daniel, like I give him his full name, for 201.11. What? Is that the 201?
2.0, yeah, 201.
The 11th pick in the 5th. Got it. Already have Burrow, Watson, and Russ. We're thinking Hooker and whatever. What you think? All right, so it's a Superflex 10-team league. Dan Jones and the 11th and the 15th pick.
It's kind of a push. I mean, like Daniel Jones is an interesting, like he's that like next guy behind Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
for me.
I'd rather have 24 first and the 11th and the 15th pick this year. Like, if I'm selling Daniel Jones for what amounts to flyers on some worse quarterback prospects, let's face it. No, I'd rather the first. That's more tradable to more teams in general for the next year. Doesn't lose value. Or I'm going to keep Daniel Jones and use the points. It's an interesting point. that you've got Jones, you've got Burrow, you've got Watson, you've got Russ. Moving some for value makes sense, don't get me wrong. But if you couldn't get that for Jones and keep him for his points and trade Watson, Watson's a really hot trade commodity right now.
Yeah.
And that's the way I would have gone. But this is fine. Like I say, I think if you get Hooker, you're going to be disappointed, but whatever.
Don't get locked into right now thinking you're going to take Hendon Hooker, because a lot depends on what happens in the next day. Not even 2 days, day with Hendon Hooker.
Probably less than 24 hours.
Yeah, it better be.
Randy Wyatt, 12-team PPR Superflex. Would you do DeAndre Hopkins straight up for the 205?
I think if I am contending, I want Hopkins without a question.
In a vacuum, that's probably a pretty good trade for DeAndre Hopkins. I'd probably keep him. I'd probably rather... If I don't need the points, I think I can do better in season when he's scoring points. If he doesn't, I'm just out. Yeah. And if I do need the points, I want the points, obviously. But I think it's a solid value. Yeah.
The problem with doing better is you think you're going to get a first for him, because if you trade him for a second in season and you're trading him to a contender, that second may be worse than the 205.
That's a fair point.
Just kind of not to rain on you, but like I understand in theory, like he's a player that in season you probably package.
That's what I was going to respond with. Yeah, you would have to package to get better than the 205. Again, that's why this is probably as good as you're going to get straight up for a while, no matter what. But yeah, solid, Randy. Good job. Brian, if you had the 112 in a 1 QB league and the draft went by the order of your rankings, don't have overall rankings, but thank you. Who would you end up with? I really got to do overall rankings, I guess. 1 QB league, so we can just get rid of these here quarterbacks. Let's see, Brian Robinson, JSN, Gibbs, Addison. Those are the top 4. After that, I probably switch to stay on wide receiver. Downs, Quentin Johnson, up to 7. Downs, Quentin 6. Then we go running back.
I'm probably either Mims or Abanikanda.
Mims is a strong one. You like Abanikanda a lot more than me, I get the impression.
I mean, I let's not get crazy. I have him at running back 8. I mean, it could be Bigsby. Depends on if Bigsby's gone. I probably end up with him there. But like in a 1 quarterback league, the bottom end of that top 12 is right around where the mid second is. Like it's those players that we just talked about.
Yeah, it's probably a running back or Michael Mayer or the tight end 1 after the draft, I guess.
I'm not taking a tight end in the first round. I can't do it. Not in a 1 quarterback. Can't do it unless it's a super premium. Don't look at me like that. That was a super flex 1.75 premium, Peter. That's where I took him.
Why'd you take him?
I don't know. 112.
There you go. So you would. Yeah, it's probably a running back. So let's say Tank or Rashawn Johnson. It's going to be one of those running backs in that tier of running backs. Right now, that's who would end up at the end of my first round. Or a tight end, which would be Michael Mayer, Sam Laporta, and then Dalton Kincaid. Again, Dalton Kincaid's rumored to get draft capital. I actually think he's got the best receiving profile in the draft. But I did a whole video on this. Like, he didn't run a 40. I got to see what the NFL thinks at that point. And Michael Mayer, if he ticked any more green boxes just to be the most boring tight end pro, they've got him mocked to Dallas. I'm like, oh yeah, he's exactly Jason Witten. Awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Yep. Let's do it. Yeah. So yeah, it's a tight end or one of my favorite running backs like Bigsby, Rashawn Johnson. Maybe Zach Charbonnet in there as well if he fell down to the end.
To me, if I went by ranks, those guys, Charbonnet and Rashawn Johnson are probably a little bit higher up than the 112 in a 1 quarterback.
Yep.
But
Randy White, I will make a big board. Just let me have the draft before I make a big, because it's fun to do actually, but I'm just not there yet. Randy White, 12-team PPR start 9. Would you send the under? Oh, we did this. Can Peter twerk?
Absolutely, he absolutely can.
For the right amount of money. No, I don't know. Never tried. With my back, you kidding me? Mike, half. One of two. 12 teams to flex PPR. He's got Hurts, Watson, Sanders, Monty, Algier, Jamal. Awesome. Zeke, Wilson, Olave, Higgins. Pretty good team. DJ Moore. Deluge. Nice. Ferguson, likely. He has the 105, the 203, and the 208. Unsure what to do with the 105 right now. Draft the best player. Honestly, that's a quarterback probably in that range, or it's JSN. You should probably just do that. If you're asking generally, I like Deluge. I like the idea of targeting Deluge. Every time I send a trade offer, I get the impression everyone has that in mind, though. I actually think Dolchich, might be someone you add a second-round pick to actually get an already good tight end. I love drafting sophomore tight ends, but everyone kind of remembers he did well. Trey McBride's virtually free. You could probably get Waller on a plus if for the right trade, or even trade up into the Kelsey, Kittle, and Andrews tier with the right ad. That's the only other thought I've got right now. Do you think he's too in on the 2022 class here? I know that's counterintuitive since they're both top 12 wide receivers of Dynasty, but like I don't like having Wilson and Olave. It's not that I don't like it, but like I want to Waddle, I want a CeeDee Lamb, I want someone else from that tier.
I don't know. They're still pretty good.
I don't know why that stands out to me. Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, you're fine. You got Higgins, you're good. And you're targeting running backs in this class as well.
Yeah, but you
maybe add something to the 5 and try and get the 101, since that's what your team is missing. If it's missing anything,
you're gonna have to add a lot to get to the 101 from the 5, though.
Yeah, fair. Again, that's the first move I always suggest, though. Try and get the 101 if you can. Yeah. 24 first to the 105 isn't a terrible offer, depending on how they feel. But anyway, I think you draft the best player available at 105, and I think that's going to improve your team, whether it's JSN or a quarterback. You're going to be pretty happy with that. Could even be Gibbs, speaking of needing a running back, depending on the draft order or your specific league. 2 of 2. I know I have people interested in trading for it. If a QB is there, there will be a quarterback there. Could be Levis, but there will be a quarterback there. Yeah. Draft dependent, but we're based on current expectations. There should be. Do you have any opinions? Appreciate it.
Yeah, but I am not averse to trading it if people are paying for it like a quarterback. So you're going to need...
If you value it as a premium asset.
2 first plus a little bit of a bump, yeah.
Otherwise, and if the draft goes as we don't expect right now, there are only 3 quarterbacks worth taking. So that becomes JSN. You just take JSN. That's why you don't have to. You have to trade. If you trade that pick, it has to be for multiple good to great things, not just a thing, or more draft capital. Because JSN is going to be a solid pick, or Gibbs right there, and you'll be pretty happy with it. So the downside of not trading is still pretty good. So don't panic trade it. I'm trying to think if there's a trade I would go for. And again, to go back to my general philosophy on quarterback, I want Dak, I want Kyler Murray, I want Lamar Jackson. These are the undervalued upside quarterbacks as I'm thinking of them right now. For the 105, that's a hard get in the case probably of Lamar Jackson. But Dak and Kyler Murray could easily carry pluses if there's a quarterback there. Again, depending on how they're feeling about all those assets. But that's kind of my shopping list. I'm trying to think if I should suggest, because I don't know if I would do this, but it might be a solid dynasty move to go try and get Cousins or go try and get Goff the 105 and see what else you can get along with it. But I hate that. Like, I'd much rather trade for that other list or just take Gibbs or JSN. Gibbs being the worst outcome, which is a really good outcome. Okay, I'm just going on about it now, but those are some of my thoughts. We need Hooker to be good just for the team names. I'm pretty sure this is just for the team names, but yeah. Tyler Reese, what teams hurt JSN? What landing spot could put JSN below Gibbs for us is essentially the question.
Third round draft capital?
Yeah, it's draft capital more than landing spot for me. Yeah, he would have to drop significantly in the draft. That would do it.
Third,
if he got third and Gibbs got
third or lower.
Done.
Yep.
So it's solidly on Gibbs at that point. Or probably trading back to Taek Jason, if I'm honest. But yeah, that's where the ranking would change. James Jones, I have the 105. I asked about moving up to the 101, and he told me he wasn't trading the pick, and he wants Bryce Young. Ooh. Well, that was some unsolicited information, wasn't it? And would you trade the 105 and the 107? Yes. In that case, I would try. Because even if you don't, you're going to get a quarterback. Even if he's lying and he takes Bijan Robinson, you'll get the best quarterback for you in this draft class. And the 7 and the 5, it's a pretty fair price for that as a downside. What do you think, Zach? Is that too much?
No, I don't. I mean, again, I don't mind doing that. You are giving up probably JSN and Addison, but if you get your pick of quarterbacks, or for some reason Bijan is there, then yeah, I don't like. That seems like
good for him, frankly. There's no. We say Bijan Robinson is the 101, but you can't take the quarterback one. It's a solid choice. I mean, there's a decision to be made.
No,
as long as you know what the decision is, you can make it either side.
There is no nuance here, Peter. There are no shades of gray.
Should be willing to take Anthony Richardson if you're feeling that groove. Yeah, you could take him 101. Again, there's no the answer, as it were, but Eleanor is the answer. No one gets that reference with me. I love it. James Jones, factoring in the risk of the 101, comes to his senses and takes Bijan Robinson in front of me. Yeah, and that was my first thought. What if he changes his mind, or what if he's lying? I still think that's a solid value for the QB1 in this draft.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I would make the trade and hope to have your choice. GG, 12 teams through flex. Start 10, 1.5, the 105, the 110, the 111. Too much for Kyler. Yes, Kyler's going a lot easier than that. But actually, that's a good trade. If that makes sense. Like, it's somewhere between the two Kyler trades we've already seen today. So I like it. 2 late first round picks in the 105 for Kyler. I think that's solid. But I've seen him go for less or better trades, but I like this trade.
Yeah. I mean, it's
I should
not
just simplify my answers a little bit. Yeah, do that trade. I like it.
It's not too much, but it is. You are assuming a lot of risk in that. Like, I think it's a good trade for Kyler, but you're also.
Well, yeah, I see what you mean, because the 5 in a super flex, probably JSN, feeling pretty good, and then you get 2 more shots. Yeah, okay. I was going to say, no, the picks are the risk, but no, I see what you're saying there.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's not to say it's a bad trade, because I think it's a good trade. It's just you make that trade and you hold your breath until Kyler comes back and does Kyler things.
But that's at the risk I'm very much willing to hold my breath for. Again, it's kind of it really stuck out to me doing the research for that show last night. It was like, he's been a top 12 every year, and we're already like, well, he was bad. I'm like, when? When was that bad? But anyway, willing to write off the young 25-year-old because we're bored of it, I think. So I'm trying to add this. I have a subscription because I got guilded into it while I was at the expo to the Dynasty trade calculator. I was eating their food. It puts it heavily on the pick side by about 15 points, 57 to 42 points.
Are you in Superflex?
Yeah.
Really?
They seem to be down on
wow.
Kyler a little bit. He's only worth 42 by himself, whereas the 105 is worth 26. And I know I should be using the DLF trade calculator, but I like you're looking at this one too for an alternate opinion. The 10 and 11 are both worth about 15 points each, which pushes it over the top. I still feel like it's a package of good things for one great thing.
I feel like they're overrating the back end first, but maybe that's just me.
A little bit. But again, it is draft day tomorrow. It's time we started getting rookie fever a little bit, I guess, even calculators. I think this is a solid trade. I would take the risk, but there is risk there, to Zach's point. So be aware. You're just hoping Kyler comes back healthy, and if he does, everything's good. Thoughts on Jameson Williams? If you're buying, what would you pay in a 1 QB league? Also, where would you rank him among the 22 receiver class? Thanks. I had an answer to this, and I can't remember what my original answer was. Let's see. I would put him below JSN, below Addison. I'd put him in there with Quentin Johnson and Josh Downs. I don't know, we're a little different on Josh Downs, but that's kind of where I put him in, like tier 3 this year.
Yeah, mine would be Flowers over Downs, but yeah, same idea. I mean, right in he'd probably be the wide receiver 4 or 5.
So, and that means in a 1 QB league, I want to pay, if I'm trading for him, the 109 just to get below those guys, let's say, up to the 107. And I think I'd probably rather have the rookies at this point because it's going to be a year and 6 games before he gets to play in the NFL. And he's just a rookie. He's still really young, had a good profile, but that's true of those guys too. And they haven't had to wait a year and 6 games to see it. And that's positive, in my opinion. So, the 109 at this point. Ryan Harvey. Zach, I already asked Peter on this, so he will shut up. Twitter was very upset about this. If you have immense wide receiver depth and you're a competitive roster, was trading the 112 and Garrett Wilson for AJ Brown too much? Actually, I'm not going to shut up for a second. I'm going to give him some time to think about it, because this is an interesting question. I don't think there's anyone that likes Garrett Wilson more than Zach. I don't think there's anyone that likes AJ Brown more than Zach either. So I'm excited to find out the answer.
I mean, I don't mind that the 112 in this has got to be a super flex, right? Did we do that?
It was, I believe. If I remember
okay, because
right.
if it's a 1 quarterback, that's a no-brainer. Like whatever, like. And again, yes, I love Garrett Wilson. AJ Brown is that guy and has like produced as that guy. So you're not giving up too much in terms of years. You're giving up a couple of years. AJ Brown's still in his prime. We're not worried about that. But you have points on AJ Brown's side. I know that probably people yelled because, especially if this was today, because Aaron Rodgers is now Garrett Wilson's quarterback. I mean, that helps, but man, I don't think the 112 is too much to pay for knowing you have AJ Brown instead of hoping you have AJ Brown.
That was kind of my feeling on it. Like, AJ Brown's got 3 or 4 years easily left in his career. I mean, I can't predict injuries, but I don't think he's any more likely to get injured above anyone else.
Yeah.
The 112 is a very small thing to pay for what Garrett Wilson might be, and you're getting it already. That was my thinking. It does make your roster more, and to our conversation, it does make your roster more immediately competitive, which means I think you immediately have to move in that direction, like follow the direction you've taken. But I mean, to Russ's point, you can always change direction on a dime. 7 more trades and suddenly you're building for value instead. But yeah, I liked it a lot. Not everyone felt the same. He's talking to Ryan, so I'm going to back up. Pass. I'm going to get this right just once, Pete. You can do it. Puff pass kick. I feel like whenever Zach says, I don't hate Will Levis, what he really means is, I hate Will Levis.
No. What I really mean is everybody who loves Will Levis is way too high on Will Levis. Everybody who hates Will Levis is way too low on Will Levis. Will Levis is a quarterback 16 through 26. Like that's who Will Levis is. Like he's not going to win you probably. And I won't say this full on confidence because I will fully admit to being wrong, and especially about quarterbacks. always say quarterbacks is a little bit like playing darts blindfolded in a hurricane. So, but like I think people knock Will Levis for his accuracy. Will Levis actually does a pretty good job of being accurate and a pretty good job of checking down. He's actually not a bad game manager at times, which you like to see. The thing that people run out to the nth degree that like him, look at his big arm, look how far he can throw the ball. Well, that gets him in trouble so much more than him being able to like make a read, or multiple reads and then check down. He gets in trouble because he has such a big arm that he will throw the ball deep downfield into double coverage, figuring, well, my arm's good. And that's not going to fly either. So it's like talking politics and you're talking to somebody who is on the right side of things and they think you're way left. And then you talk to somebody on the left side of things and they think you're way right. That's where I am with Will Levis. Like I am firmly ensconced in the
Switzerland.
middle.
Got it.
Yeah.
You're
yeah.
Kentucky in the Civil War. You're Switzerland in every war.
Yeah.
I got it. I hate Will Levis. I just say it. I don't have a strong enough opinion not to defend my opinion. So yeah, I just hate him. You can blame me if he's good. He seems like a lot of fun. I've heard a lot of people saying people don't like him, but every quote I've seen from him has been kind of fun. I don't mind a person with character or personality. I mean, why not?
People don't like him because he put mayonnaise in his coffee once, and they're all freaked out.
I don't know, you're all weird. Like, let people eat what they want. Pineapple belongs on pizza, damn it. Like, I'm taking this stance the day before the draft. Why not? I guess I don't view Garrett Wilson the same as a bunch of others. To me, he's a tier below A.J. Brown and CD. I think he could be CD more than A.J. Brown. That's what I would say. Like, if he doesn't break out into the top 12 next year, he's less likely to do it, but he could do it in a third year like CD did. A.J. Brown was just that guy the minute he walked on the field in the NFL. Like, that's pretty cool. I like that. And it also has a better record of maintaining. Like Garrett Wilson has to do what AJ Brown has done since he entered the league next year and then keep it up for a couple more years. No. And then he'll be AJ Brown. Like I'm willing to just take AJ Brown now. Would you trade Chase for Metcalf and Lamar? This is super flex.
That is real. If it's super, yeah. Yes. Yes. Oh man, that's hard. Yes, I would.
It's a super flex. Yes.
That hurts. That's a tough one, Tyler.
But if Jake ever asks, I said no. Brian Martin got the 111 and the 112 in the same league. How far can that move me up? Oh, so if he adds them both together, what pick could he get? Well, whichever one says like yes, to be honest with you. But even if he adds a 206, will that make a difference? Yeah, the 206 should make a difference. If you're compiling all three of those, yeah, that's likely to have a better impression.
Is this a one quarterback though? I'm trying to remember back to Brian. Yeah, it is. It's a one quarterback league. So
I don't know. It gets you up far enough then.
Yeah.
You want a top 4 pick in a super flex, essentially. In a non-super flex, in the 1 QB league. I don't think all three of those things gets you there. But I would why not, man? The draft's tomorrow. Just go to the 102, the 103, the 104 owner and offer all of that for that pick. And if one of them says yes, you're good. I don't think it's enough. But again, like we've talked to a few people today, if they're looking for depth, if the team's building, sometimes trading back makes sense and it feels good. Like they're getting into a solid running back range there. So they might be tempted to have more shots in a decent tier of running backs rather than the top Gibbs or whatever.
So here, yeah, man. If I couldn't get up into the top, what you said, 4, yeah, 4 or 5. I'd probably just I'd probably sit tight because then you can go, your running backs, your Charbonnet and whoever you like at that range, Abanaconda, Roshan Johnson. You may end up with a Zay Flowers. You may end up with a Josh
Which
Downs.
Isn't bad.
I'm gonna
Johnson.
Yeah, so like it's not the end of the world if you can't move up, Brian, because there will be some interesting players there. It's just not going to be the kicker like it would be in a Superflex league.
Here's what I say. I don't think you get it, but offer it to those first 4 picks. But the fun thing about Dynasty and trading is it's not over. Since ours isn't here, I'll point out what you can also do is remove the second round pick and offer it to the 5, the 6, the 7, and the 8. And then in your draft, if Gibbs falls to the 5 or JSN falls to the 5 because someone wanted to take Quentin Johnson, for example, right. A lot of people are really higher than him than Addison or Gibbs. Then you can add that second round pick to whatever pick you actually managed to trade for and try and trade into the player instead of trading into the tier. Because in a draft, there's always going to be one player that falls a spot. Not always, but I think there's a decent gap between Addison and Quentin Johnson, but I wouldn't be surprised if Quentin Johnson is actually better because it's a rookie draft, and what do I know? And a lot of people feel that way already. So you could easily see Addison fall or Gibbs fall. And if that happens, the tier doesn't matter anymore. You just need firepower to go get the pick that you want.
The other thing That's might try...
another idea. Trade for the 8 or the 9 with the idea you could trade up if someone falls below that 4.
The other thing I might do, Brian, is use my 24 first as leverage right now. So we have this really weird thing where if you're playing a sport, so I was played basketball coming up through high school, and if you're down by 9, it feels a lot less than if you're down by 10, even though it's only one. It's why when you go to the grocery store, everything's like $4.99. Because if you see that $5,
penny matters,
it's $5. But that one penny makes it feel like you're only paying $4. If the same thing happens in Dynasty, but in reverse, where if you have that 1 attached to it, you may be able to move further up, and it's not the 111, it's a 24 first, so it could be anything, and so that may get you even further. So again, we're
adding the 11 to your 24 first, you mean, and then shooting for the. That's enough. Yeah. There are other trade offers. That's a good point. But if you strike out, I think it's a really solid move to try for the 6 to the. To your point, having the 6, 7, and 8 is different than having the 11 and 12.
Yes.
And then so on the clock, if you're sending the 8 because you traded into it for the 105, that's more tempting to him than the 11, even though it probably really shouldn't be. So you can still try and trade up as much as you can with the idea that you're going to try and trade up again if someone should fall outside those top 4 picks. That's a way of trying to target one of those guys in your individual draft instead of trying to target the tier, assuming that the tier just gives up. But Zach's right. Maybe try adding your 24 first. That might be more tempting than some of those guys in the first 4. Toronto Dave. I don't know why I said that weird. Toronto Dave. I'm too excited. The draft's tomorrow. Hey guys. Hey Dave. Hey Bob. Tyler. No one gets that reference either. Tyler Sperry. Superflex. Did I miss that? This was his question. Yeah. It definitely was Superflex.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We would. We'd feel dirty, but we would. What else is new? Lakers ex-Commanders. Trade the 105, the 106, and get a 24.
Trade 105 to 106 and get a 24 second.
Okay. So a second to move down 1 spot. Yeah. Is this a super flex?
No,
I'm assuming it's super flex.
But do you do that giving up? So he's saying you're giving up a top 3 quarterback. Is it?
I don't think there's consensus on who the top 3 are this year. Well, maybe the top.
I think there's consensus
Bryce
on
and
the
Young, but the order of them is long.
That's that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, after those 3, like even before those 3, like I start considering JSN, Gibbs. So I'm okay moving down because I'm really interested in the skill position players after those top 3.
This is one of the moves, Peter, where we talked about you make on the clock. Because I think when that quarterback is on the clock, all of a sudden it's more valuable than a second round pick.
No, you're right. Like there's literally no. A second is too little, but it's fair. And what he's doing is trying to buy before you know for sure, and that's like, no, you're going to take the risk. Get on the clock, see who's there, see if it goes Young, Stroud, and Richardson's left, or if it goes Richardson, Young, and then you get to make the decision. And also maybe he'll amp up because his favorite quarterback fell. Amp it up to a 24 first or something.
And the other thing that may happen is it may not be a quarterback, and you may get Jackson Smith and Jigba, and you may be fine with that, so
he isn't given enough to make this trade something you should do now rather than wait till you're on the clock. This should be available on the clock, so why would I make this decision now? Now, if that was a 24 first, then he's making it incentive enough to risk what the clock's actually going to do, if you know, or what the draft's actually going to do. JDub 34, 10-team, 1 QB, half-point PPR, start 10. In a rebuild, trade the 107 and 110 for DK Metcalf. 1 QB league, the 7 and the 10. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. The 7 and the 10 and a 1 QB draft is yeah. Give me DK. Outside of Aaron Jones, who's a sneaky, non-obvious get to acquire for very little. When did I write up
Montgomery?
Montgomery's a good one.
Does it have to be running back?
I guess not. And so you are. All right, here are the running backs who showed up for me. Like, rankers like them a lot more than DLF ADP. Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, Kenneth Walker. Rankers like him a lot more than ADP. Jonathan Taylor, Dalvin Cook. That's a low. We're getting into a point of his career, but he's ranked 20th overall in ADP, so he's a very late first round pick. You could get a good deal on him. Then it's McCaffrey, Swift, who's probably the most enticing in Dynasty. Dameon Pierce, if you're looking for points. Dynasty hates Dameon Pierce. Tony Pollard, J.K. Dobbins. I'm going to redo that once ADP and ranks update after the draft, but that's the last time I looked at running back.
What about Rashad Penny?
Okay.
And again, like his value may be dust tomorrow or Friday. Like, there's a chance that Philadelphia drafts Bijan Robinson and none of that matters. They probably won't, but there's a chance. But that's the type of, if we're looking at running backs, that's the type of player. Aaron Jones, James Conner is another one that you can get for almost nothing that could put up points.
It's a sparse list, but it should be. It's running back.
Yeah.
You buy running back for their points when you need them. But there are a few. Like, I think Aaron Jones and Swift right now are really good examples of people are probably undervaluing Dynasty.
Cam Akers could be one too.
No, I said this earlier in the offseason. I listened to a Football Guys podcast and the tape grinder from Football Guys. God, what's his name? Jesus.
Matt?
Yeah, it's Matt Wallman. And talking about Cam Akers and saying, in context, it doesn't make sense how basically Dynasty's just given up on him. He's worth almost nothing. He's at the bottom of 200 ranks. And all he has to do is get the job for 3 or 4 games next year, and that's easily paid off. And it's Cam Akers. He's pretty good when healthy. So Cam Akers is a really good name to put on that list. Yeah. I was more looking top of the fold, but very much so. How early would you take Bryce or Stroud in a 1 QB league? Late first.
Probably after I'm after the first, but yeah. And honestly, in a one quarterback
14th
league,
overall.
In a one quarterback league, I want Richardson.
Yeah, it's more important to take Richardson at that point. Yeah. And right now in ADP, I think Richardson and Young are going 9th and 10th in ADP, and then Stroud's go. Oh, it might be. I can't remember which way around it is, but the other one's going 14th overall, which is around about the time I'd be like, oh, cool, yeah, quarterback, sure.
Yeah,
14th sounds better to me, but of course it would. It's lower. Bet. Weaves, hey all, happy draft eve. Thank you very much. What non-obvious get are you guys looking to acquire at wide receiver or running back? I don't think there are non-obvious gets anymore. I get that everyone likes sleepers, but I have consistently remained anti-sleeper. I don't like sleepers. I guess the best qualifying one would be Rashad Bateman, but like I've been saying that for a minute. And again, because of where he's being valued, like I don't see top 12 upside.
What about
Tyler Lockett?
No, this goes against every fiber of my being. But what about Kadarius Toney, who's going somewhere in the mid 40s of wide receivers? Like he's going as a wide receiver 4 right now.
Makes sense as a value, but I can't say he's someone I specifically target with my process. But
well, no, but again, he's
so low value.
Yeah. Identifying non-obvious guys who have low value who could end up popping. Cortland Sutton is another one of those guys who last year we were in on. Russell Wilson spiraled into oblivion. You assume that things are going to be better in Denver this year. So again, like you're looking to try to get points from somebody that you don't have to pay much for.
This is kind of what I'm writing up to try and find a solid process for looking at ADP versus ranks. Wide receiver I did a couple of weeks ago as well. And the one that stuck out to me the most was Deebo Samuel. He's still really highly valued. He's drafted 65th overall, though. Wide receiver 22. If healthy, he smashes that. That's like a Calvin Ridley, but you don't have to get into the Calvin Ridley conversation. Rashad Bateman was the lowest drafted one that showed up for me, 91st overall. I think he's a top 24 wide receiver. After that, they're mostly studs. Traylon Burks, 68th overall. Again, these are all top 100 picks because that's where I filtered it to. Because you can make the case that everyone outside the top 100 picks is a good pick at value. To be fair, but then you have to look at an individual, like look at my rankings and see who's in the top 100 but not in ADP. I was going more broad, trying to borrow someone else's opinion.
I just kept waiting for you to say Elijah Moore and Michael Thomas, like always. But
they're outside the top 100. I'm pretty sure.
No. But that's where you're finding value. I mean, like you look. I mean, to me,
I agree.
To me, I start about 50 and go to about 120 and look and see where I think guys are undervalued, and that's
solid as well. Maybe I'll expand it for the next round. But for me, saying like I had this argument with Matt Foreman when it was DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel back when we didn't even know that. So it was a long time ago. And his point was Curtis Samuel is easier to be a value because he was drafted 40 picks later, and he could be the wide receiver 1, and maybe DJ Moore isn't that, and Curtis Samuel is solid. And I was like, yes, but that to me isn't making a decision. It's just saying I'll spend nothing and hope to get something. If I'm going to put my finger down and say who I think is actually good, that's why I'm looking at the top 100. But you're right. Looking at below that, but in the top 100 picks, the ones that I want to put my finger on and say they're undervalued. Calvin Ridley is an example that didn't show up because he's not in ADP, right? But Deebo Samuel, Traylon Burks, and Rashad Bateman. But again, because they're inside the top 100 picks, none of them are free or second round pick trades.
Right.
So you got to find a balance. But those are the ones that stand out to me that I expect things. I expect this. And if it's wrong, I'm wrong. So I can stand by it. But you're right. You probably look a little lower than that. I'll do it next time, Zach, okay? It's a big article. I can't type. No, you're good. You're doing better than me. What non-obvious vet are you guys trying to acquire very cheap? Is it me or does Thielen fit this? Yeah, but again, it's so low. Like, any guy who's had a top 24 or top 12 season who's worth a third-round pick, I think that's a pretty decent try. Michael Thomas would be another example right now. I don't think he's too far off. Right. So, yeah. Is there anyone else?
What, top 24 seasons that are down that low?
Yeah, someone that we know is proven good. It's Hopkins, it's Keenan Allen, it's Michael Thomas.
Odell
Thielen
Beckham
is a good example. Odell Beckham. Yeah, if they're worth a third-round pick, sure. Yeah. But I don't have a way of saying this is the guy who's actually going to remind us that everyone's good. Like, I think they're pretty good.
This is where you're taking it's a shotgun approach.
Yes. It's a shotgun approach. Would you get a Jonathan Taylor to move up for Bijan? Move up from where? Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson is an interesting move, but Jonathan Taylor's still good and young. I'm not adding like the 102 to get to Bijan Robinson. So it matters what you're adding, but I would because he's younger and it's running back. Values value.
Yep.
D-Bags, 12-team Superflex PPR start 10. And just to be clear there, because I said I would not add the 102. Like, I don't know. In a Superflex, I might add the 105, I guess, max to Taylor to get to Bijan Robinson. But I feel like you can do a whole bunch of other stuff rather than, like, to get Bijan Robinson from the 5 or whatever.
I mean, if I'm going to do that, I'd rather go and get Hall and not have to pay as much. Yeah.
I'm trying to get it some other.
Well, this is not to like Bijan Robinson is a top 4 profile that I've ever done. So
he's a running back 1 and has never stepped on an NFL field.
Yeah, so. I mean, like it's literally Barkley, CMC, Cook. I feel like maybe Taylor is in there, and Bijan, like they're all like there. Like it's
safe to say
he's real good.
We have expectations. Okay, he's in here. The calculator's already got him in here. He's worth the same amount as Kyler Murray in a Superflex, apparently.
Yeah,
coincidentally.
Yeah. Barkley, McCaffrey, and then Bijan, Dalvin Cook, Jonathan Taylor. Like that's where you're at in terms of rookie profile.
Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley are both worth less than Kyler Murray.
Well, I mean,
sorry, I've got it here. I'm just.
They're also older. Sorry. They're older.
That means nothing, but yeah, that's exactly what
they were worth. Way more than Kyler Murray when Kyler Murray wasn't in the league, and they were, the running back 1.
Eric says, have late rounds only this draft. I'm in that situation in some parts. But some good unproven youth. Hollywood, Christian Watson, they're fairly proven. Nicole Collins, not about it. Dotson, interesting. Palmer is very interesting. Elijah Moore, Alec Pierce. I like your depth more than the top of you. The top end there, but that's cool. Amon-Ra seems out of place.
He's proven.
That's cool. Yeah, he's fairly proven. Christian Kirk, solid. And Damian Pierce, J.K. Dobbins, Najee, very undervalued persistently in Dynasty. Pitts, likely. Should I hold or trade in? Broadly, looking at your roster, I don't think you're ready to compete, and I don't think you have enough value, especially without seeing your picks here. So I think you should make moves. Yeah. Elijah Moore plus something to get into the late first, and then add something to that late first to get up. The only players here that I would strongly hold: Hollywood, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Najee and Pitts. Those are the top of your roster. So you want to keep them as best you can while moving in as far as you can to the top part of the draft. And any combination of things to get up there is fine. Having said that, any trade is good as long as you're adding value to your roster. So, and Zach, is there anything that stands out for you particularly? Like, I hate Nico Collins. I know he was a big hype guy last year, but like, I would have traded him for a second at any point.
Yeah.
Dotson, it's promising, but like you don't have a lot of... Sorry, Karen.
No, it's like Dotson and Watson are the immediate, those are the players that I would be trying to trade because they have the most value, and to me, they are the least likely to return points long term.
Points on back, at least,
Like
Palmer's probably not going to be value, but he's a really interesting upside shot, so you probably hold him.
And the same thing with Pierce.
It depends how your league's feeling. If they want to go in on that good young player who had a solid rookie season, if you can get him valued at a second, I would trade him. But I don't mind rostering him if you can't. But Watson and Dotson are both young second-year players. You can probably get pretty good trades on them. And so you're right. Those are probably the two you should lead with, as it were. But I don't think you have enough on your roster to just stand pat. So start trying to make some moves to go one direction or the other. Go for points, go for value. But all of that can start with seeing how high of a pick you can get in the first round. Watson and Dotson are probably your front foot. Add something to one of them. Go start offering them to people in your league. See what pick you can get. Start from the top, work back.
Yeah.
That kind of.
But you're shooting for, up 107 and above.
Yep. And in a 1 QB, just in case, it's 104 above.
Yeah. Yep.
Nick, it doesn't mean you have to trade straight there either. You can ante up. That's what I was saying with add something to Elijah Moore, get a late first, and then add something to that late first to get a top 4. But that's a goal. Nick, with Dak at QB and a 1 QB, what should I look to do with the 201? QB or running back?
I mean, if Richardson's there, I don't mind taking Richardson.
In a 1 QB at the 201? Yeah. Sure.
If he's not there, then take a running back. Take whoever's the best player available. But
early second is a very good place to take a shot at a quarterback in a 1 QB league. Like that's like we were saying, the 14th pick overall. If the quarterbacks are there, you take a shot. In this year's draft in a 1 QB league, I get a lot firmer on my rankings. Yeah, it's Richardson. I'm scared, but in a 1 QB league, he's probably the only one who definitely has that level of upside. Again, maybe Stroud or Young is actually Burrow and Herbert instead of just good like Tua. But I could definitely see if Richardson can be a passer, whatever, that has the upside straight away, has a ceiling straight away. And so Richardson is a lot more locked in. At 201, I think that'd be a very fair choice. Otherwise, you're taking a running back. So, yeah. Also, what do you recommend with a 301? The 104? It's draft the best player available, man.
Yeah.
It's who's going to score the most points the earliest or increase in value. Both of those are correlated. Don't draft for what your team needs. The reason we were saying it's okay that 201 is because that's about where those quarterbacks go. So you can take the best quarterback. But it's take the best player, trade for things that you need, draft for the best player.
And back at those ranges, it's probably running back, tight end.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fade. Honestly, the second round is kind of sketchy on wide receivers. There's solid hit rates, and I think this year there's some really good profiles in there. But even in the second round, I'm leaning more heavily towards running back, quarterback, tight end in rookie drafts. I'm taking Adderall over Addison.
Just locked in.
Okay. Nick Martin, apologies if you've covered this in the past. Doesn't matter, Nick. We appreciate it anyway. But I feel as though NIL, what am I missing?
Name, image, and likeness. So the money that college players are getting for their faces.
Going to devalue early declares a data point moving forward. Could. I mean, I don't know. Honestly.
Well, it's definitely changing the way people declare. Or when people declare. I mean, you and Travis May talked about that with quarterbacks, how the quarterback class keeps shifting later because of both COVID, the new rules with being able to get in the transfer portal and not miss seasons, and the name, image, and likeness. So there's like this weird, like threefold thing going on.
Here's the thing. Early declare was never a thing. And I've gone toe-to-toe with the best on this. And they are smarter and better than me. But I think I'm right on this one. The signal anyone got from early declare was just kind of latent, age-adjusted production. I don't think we can be... What's the word? I actually don't know what the right word is. But we can't assume that players aren't in the world or of the world. The minute players and agents figure out that there is something to declaring early in terms of expectation of draft capital, and it shifted that way, that's how large that noise that didn't really have any real signal, in my opinion, got. How was I thinking about this earlier? Draft Day, the movie, the terribly awful movie that is great. If players and agents, more importantly, become aware that coaches and scouts are paying attention to how well liked they are by teammates, and then start making it mandatory or artificially inflating the behaviors which suggest likability. Does that make them suddenly more likable? especially when being likable wasn't necessarily the trait that made them good at being a quarterback or an NFL prospect, and it was just latent signal from something else, something about your ability to manage under pressure, for example, which actually translates or is connected to your ability to get along with people or make friends. I know that might sound weird, but that's honestly got me thinking about early declare. Once something that doesn't have correlation to your ability, but does show a tendency in hit rates, becomes known and well known, I think it's silly to think that players wouldn't adjust for it. Like, I'd get more money if I declare earlier, whether I'm ready or not. Like, the agents are going to push you to declare earlier. So whatever latent signal was in it, which was very minimal, by the way, had already gone by the time it became aware. Like, if me and you on Twitter are aware of it, agents are aware of it, okay? People that get paid millions of dollars to plan or make decisions about $1 million contracts, we're probably aware of it. We're not that sharp. And that's before you get to the fact that it didn't have causation in terms of early declare, therefore better. It was late in age adjustment production. Having said all that, so this doesn't matter, it's going to have an effect. Like Travis was saying about COVID, like these real world situations do have an effect, but they're often very difficult to adjust for outside of just being aware of the context. It could have the reverse effect. This is what false narratives mostly come from. It's something that makes logical sense. Players will stay in to earn money, and then for counterintuitive reasons, it comes out the exact opposite way. That happens in the real world all the time. Common sense isn't so common until you find out what actually happens. So we don't know because we haven't seen what actually happens in this situation a lot. As it is, I'd say be aware of it, pay attention to it. But right now, COVID's having a lot greater effect on the age or early declare status of players entering the NFL than name, image, and likeness. It might encourage players to declare early because teams like it or teams draft you higher or more. No idea. But it is something we should keep an eye on. Enter the power of 4. What 23 first is worth trading for Olave?
I would want the 104 or better.
Yeah, it's a top 4.
Yeah. So getting him for a 107 and a 24 fourth is fantastic. You did well.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't get to the end of the question, but yeah. Roberto, I think. Just looked up Garrett Wilson and Olave. Who do we like at the 104 1QB rookie draft?
Addison.
Jean, JSN, Gibbs or Addison?
Yeah.
Addison. Break it to the running back.
I mean, probably Gibbs is going ahead of him, but that's where I'm at right now. And again, if Addison goes in the 3rd or 4th, then things change tomorrow. But
excited to get Addison at 4, to be clear. That's not like
no, he's
left.
good.
Like, I'd be really excited.
Yep.
18 2QB start 12. Have Lamar, Lance only at quarterback. Seems pretty good. Chances they can get a QB at pick 18 in a 2QB, not good. I have 324 first, but rather lose in 23 than trade them.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like, I don't think you're going to get a quarterback at pick 18.
No, you're not going to get a quarterback. Would you be tempted to trade Lance?
Yes. If I could
I think the risk of Lance, is it worth it for the points upside? But if you're more thinking...
You have to start 2 quarterbacks. So this is one where you trade Lance for, like, Daniel Jones and a second.
Yeah, or you trade Lance into
third, yeah.
A top 7 pick this draft if you can get it, or try and get a quarterback of some nature with a plus. It would be the way I was thinking of it, because the risk isn't worth it for a team that's not focused on winning in 2023.
Right.
No. But the points upside is for a team that is. Lounging Bear got offered the 102, the 103, and Swift for the 101, Bijan Robinson. In a 10-team superflex. I really wanted Bijan and already have strong QBs, Lawrence, Watson, Murray. Is it too much value to pass on? The 2 and the 3 and Swift for the 101. I think so. You probably have to take that. The 2, 3, and Swift for Bijan Robinson. You probably got to take that, right? Well, you don't have to do anything.
Well, he's saying he offered the 102, 103, and Swift for the 101.
No, but the way he writes the question,
Offered the 102, 103, Swift for the 101. I really wanted Bijan.
But is this too much to pass on? He's writing the first part as if. You see what I mean?
So have been okay. Then no, I think I'd probably take the 102, 103, and Swift.
I'm not sure which way around you're asking the question at this point, but yeah, the 2, the 3, and Swift wins. Yeah, it's the picks and Swift win. That's so. Joe, good evening, guys and gals.
Hey, Joe.
I'll be the gals.
And if you've got all those quarterbacks, sorry, I don't mean to, but you can go back to the lounging bear. I was offered, but like you can, because you have all those quarterbacks, getting the 102, 103 now means that either one of those, we talked about this earlier, but Watson is the kind of flavor of the month in terms of people are coming back in on him and seeing his upside. You may be able to either trade Watson or one of those picks and get back into the range where you can add Jackson Smith-Njigba, you can add whoever it is, or we talked about Garrett Wilson. Somebody in that range, the 102, 103, maybe a Garrett Wilson, maybe a Chris Olave, maybe somebody in that range. You can trade one of those picks to get. So
Jeff Bell said something the other week or so that's been in my head ever since. It's something similar. We've thought about this. He's actually no longer at Fantasy Pros. I just looked him up to find out. He's at Football Guys, apparently.
Yes,
everyone moving around except me and you. I thought he was still at Fantasy Pros. I think he was mostly joking, but he said everyone saying sell or buy a player essentially means those are players you can get trades on. And that seems so true to me. Like the fact that Watson is so heavily involved in the conversation of some people think you should sell, some people think you should buy, just means trades are possible.
Right.
And the rest is noise. Yeah. So, anyway, I thought Jeff said it funny. What happened with Gibbs? Was there slightly bad news or something? Not as far as I know.
I haven't heard anything.
Listed him as top 4. Did we say something bad? In Superflex, would you trade the 108 for Godwin? Yes. Yeah.
I don't think I would. Okay. I think you can get more than Godwin for the 108, and I don't think I'd do it right now either, because things are gonna that's the range where things are gonna shake up.
That's fair. That's true. So that's where someone falls out the top 7 and suddenly you got him. Yeah. Godwin isn't really a target of mine. Value's probably even, but I think you can do better. Lounging Bear, what players would you target for a competing team with a 104 or the 105? In a 10-team Superflex, looking for value. Tier up, if there is such a thing. Yeah, there's such a thing. So who should he go and try and trade for with the 4 and or the 5? I need a Superflex 10-team. It's a really good range for you. In a Superflex, even as a competitive team. So I'm really interested in making those picks. You can get Gibbs and Addison in one of those picks and a quarterback. So that would make you more competitive, even if you stood pat. Outside of that, points players, my head is not in the who's undervalued in terms of points. I tell you what, I did. Sorry, you go.
Well, no, like that again. The 104, 105. That's in the range of the players I would be targeting are in that Garrett Wilson, St. Brown, Olave. That type of player. I mean, even I guess you could probably go down to like Drake London and Devontae Smith, but like that's the type of player I'm looking to add for those picks if I'm gonna give up one of those picks.
So I recently wrote up Dynasty versus redraft ranks right now, which would be a way of looking for points upside for a competitive team with those level of picks. The players that stood out the most at running back, it was Derrick Henry and Travis Kelce. neither of which are probably worth the 4 or the 5 by themselves. Wide receiver Cooper Kupp, who's not worth that either. Then Kyle Pitts. Oh, sorry, those are the players that the Dynasty preferred, which was Kyle Pitts and Drake London, Jalen Waddle. So I would say the best targets right now, according to redraft ranks for a competitive team, are Derrick Henry, Kelsey, and Kupp. And those are the players I would target. But I don't think you trade either of those picks straight up for them. No. But you do try and find a trade for one of those 3 players with those picks. That's probably the closest I can get to a simple answer. Henry, Kelsey, and Kupp. The most misranked player, I talked about Henry because of where he's being valued in Dynasty, but Christian McCaffrey is still the running back 1 in Fantasy Pros redraft ranks for obvious reasons, even in Superflex, and that gives the most points differential to valuation compared to Dynasty. So you could add him to the list too. Barkley and Eckler as well. Traded Jamison Williams plus the 105, plus 211, plus a 24 first, plus a 25 first for the 101, the 112, and Trey Lance. 10-team Superflex start 10. There's a lot going on here. I think the 101 just wins because he's getting the quarterback on that side as well.
It does, but that's a haul to give.
I really can't break that down into smaller bites. I think it's just Lance and Bijan Robinson beats Williams and JSN plus 24 first. It's close though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's close. I think I'd take Bijan, but it is close.
Yeah,
I'd still probably
24 hours.
I'd still probably look to trade Trey Lance too, especially once they say he's the starter or whatever. Like,
yeah. Open 24 hours says Bijan to the Birds, make it happen. NFL scripters.
Which birds? The Falcons, the Eagles, the Cardinals. Maybe he switches. He could play for the Orioles. Like, there are just so many birds.
I think he's meant to go to the Falcons. I think that must be who he's talking about.
I mean, it could be the Eagles too.
Richard Davis, 12 teams start 8, 1 QB. I have the 101, the 104, the 105. Watson, Lance, Kirk, Hall, ETN, that's his team. Also Pitts. Is it worth trading for the 104 and the 105 for trading the 4 and the 5 for the 2 and taking JSN, or what kind of moves can I make? Okay, well, it's a 1 QB league. So the 4 and the 5 for the 2.
I would try to trade Lance and the 5 for the 2. See if I could get up doing something else. Keep the 104, because then you end up with Bijan, JSN, and then Addison or Gibbs. Like, that seems like a real fun draft to me.
I think Addison and Gibbs is a fair enough trade to get JSN, but it's real tight. Honestly, I like Addison a lot, and Gibbs is a really good draft. So I think Zach's right. I would look for a different trade. Add something to the 5 or the 4.
Or Pickens, man. I don't mind. I don't mind trading Pickens to get up
Pickens
into
in
that
the 5
range.
to get the 102 could easily happen. That's a good trade for both sides. And you get JSN and Bijan Robinson and a shot at 5 as well. Yeah, I like that better. Or a shot at 4, depending on which trade you did. The 4 and the 5 is probably too much to get to the 102, is where I'm coming down. But I definitely we should try and get the 102. Why not?
So I don't mind trading the 4 and the 5 for the 102, but I'd much rather have because our tier break is right after the 4. I'd much rather hang on to the 4, try to trade the 5 with something to get up to the 2 or 3.
If you tried everything else and nothing else worked, you would trade the 4 and the 5 for the 102, both Addison and Gibbs for JSN.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I like JSN significantly a significant tier of player for me, but like I'm skittish.
But you're not
enough there.
You're not trading Addison and Gibbs with the 104 and 105. You're trading Addison and Quentin Johnston, or Addison and Downs, or
Oh, yeah,
Addison.
you're right. That would be the 5 would be out of
Yeah.
that range. Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay,
That's
the 4
what
and the
that's
5
what I'm
range.
saying. Which is again why I would attack this by trying to trade the 5 plus something else that I didn't necessarily like.
Yeah,
that wasn't
the
a
5 and the Pickens for the
All of a sudden, then
or
you're
the
up at
3.
the 102, and then you get Bijan, you get JSN or Gibbs if that's your flavor, and then you get whoever is left over between Addison and Gibbs, or I mean, man, that's a
draft.
pretty strong first round.
And I like Pickens. You're a little less dubious, but you do like him.
I
remember. You like Pickens. You just think there's not much upside because of the team situation.
Well, no, like right? he's got a ton of upside, but
I think we're about the same on it.
It's the same. Like you're looking at. It's the same reason why you and I are a little bit different on Freiermuth, where Freiermuth is really good, but it's hard to see Pittsburgh having the volume and the scoring to. You got Deontay Johnson, you got Freiermuth.
That's fair. That's a fair point.
You've got Pickens, you've got Najee Harris, and you've got Kenny Pickett trying to support all that. Like it's hard for me.
Like Zach Wilson with all the weapons around.
Well, that's it.
Him.
Like
it's come on.
It's hard for me to look at. I mean, wow,
making it hard for me to like you.
It was like when Baker Mayfield had Chubb and Hunt and Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham and I mean, like it's nothing against
work.
Yeah, nothing against those players, but like you got to have the quarterback is a pretty important cog in an offense.
It is a fair point. Yeah, no. They do start with the ball. Brian Ford. Hi, guys. Thoughts on Alec Pierce? Really interesting sleeper relative to 2022 rookie values, actually. Sleepers suck, but he's... I'd have to check, but he and Tyquan Thornton, actually, are the only two who pique my interest outside of the Wandsworth first-round picks, put it that way. They performed above what their points per game was in a sophomore model that I run. I actually think they're interesting, but sleepers generally suck. So, let's keep it in our pants. They're going to draft Colts are going to draft who did I see? Who did the Colts draft? It was in that mock that I showed you.
Was it Addison?
I think it was Downs. I think add someone and that will make it difficult. But outside of that, Alec Pierce had a significantly okay rookie season. Most people don't value it. But anyway, high draft pick, very high relatively to his profile, I think. They're going to draft a quarterback, which is not a positive thing for the receivers this year, to be fair. And he needs to do something this year or he's going to start to fade behind other added talent. JT back. Solid plus. He's in a solid situation. I think relative to his ADP, I'd easily spend like a late second, early third, highest possible that I'd go. But at that range, and he does need to do something this year for it, I think he's an interesting flyer down there. If your favorite tight ends are gone and you find yourself in that late second, early third range, I'd send offers on him or do it before the draft if you feel that confident.
Yeah, and the fun thing about Pierce is a lot of people are going to be like, he didn't do very much last year. I'm on to the next, and so you can get a little bit of a discount. I mean, I'm with you.
And that's exactly the way I'd think of it, because again, he has to do something this year, but he ran a significant number of routes last year. That's a volume that we should care about. It's not the target volume we're chasing with Olave and Wilson, but it is a type of volume we should pay attention to. Problem is he has to start doing something with it. If they don't add too much in the draft, and then he'll get another shot to run with it this year. And even if he does, rookies are a little slower in terms of receiving. Quarterbacks are rough, and so him having experience in the offense. Again, we're not describing his path to breaking out, but if he just performs on the routes he has, he's going to be a value where he's being drafted, and there's always upside in there. He could end up being a top 36 receiver kind of a thing. He's startable. His value would definitely increase in Dynasty if he was able to put up some games where he was startable. I like that kind of potential for him, but it's not sleeper. It's undervalued. It's different. Opinions on Pickens' potential to improve. I think we're in the exact same place we were when he was drafted, where both me and you described him independently as possibly having the most upside of any player in that draft class, and also the biggest downside. And I think that's where he still is relative to the other rookies from that draft class, next to Burks, next to London. Like, he's got all the upside. He also has all the downside. And I think that's still described. Is that not true?
The cathedral ceiling, but underneath the cathedral is a crypt. Like, that's just the thing that nobody talks about is, down there are a bunch of dead bodies buried in the walls.
And right now, because of the way he made the few points that he made, they were highlight reel worthy, which means, and that's not, people aren't silly. Stupid, rather. They're valuing something real, but it's so easy to get behind when you see the one-hand catch metric.
I was saying, what's the R squared value of the one-handed catch?
And the more excited we are, the more likely we are to maybe just do a little bit more than we should. And so that's what puts him on the I'd trade him away list, because
we like to dream.
He's easy to root for. Yeah. It's literally, fantasy football players literally like to dream. We're pretending to have something to do with football. That's our entire goal here. So, yeah, you catch us in a hype bubble, we will fall for it. Me too. What are you looking forward to the most tomorrow? Example, for me, where Bijan JSN go. If Gibbs is round 1, what the quarterback order is. That's a good question. What am I looking forward to tomorrow? I just genuinely enjoy the draft, especially when players get drafted high. I don't know. I'm a little bit of a softie, I guess, somewhere in my cold, robotic heart, and it's fun to see players' hard work pay off. That's honestly my favorite part of it. Watching them get drafted and get to do the walk. And
turn to their families and watch the families get excited.
So many of them are coming from places where this is gonna. It's like, oh god, I love that.
Yeah, it's life changing. It's awesome. I'm 100% with you. But that's my favorite part. My second favorite part will be seeing Russ's face on some live stream.
Yeah, but to your point, you're actually more asking about relative to fantasy or wherever players go. I'm really interested to see how many wide receivers go in general. I was just surprised to see so many mocked in the first round. I don't think the NFL likes this wide receiver class too much. I do.
The NFL's wrong.
yeah, of course, obviously, always. But like JSN and Addison and even Downs had what pick was that? I think that was pretty close to an early second round pick. I think they'll fade it a little bit. They value slot targets more now, but not as much as they did last draft class. And they just had a whole bunch of great wide receivers came in. Most teams feel pretty solid. Most teams have some good starters, if not one outstanding, if not two. So I'm interested to see if that's right or wrong. If the NFL goes in on this class, that's a good thing. That means they're going for the talent rather than looking for the talent they want. And that'll be interesting. Yeah.
For me, it is whether Jordan Addison goes in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting to me. Whether Sam Laporta goes in the first round,
that'd be interesting,
and that's interesting to me. And those are the two real big ones. Gibbs, you mentioned, Richard. That's another interesting one. Although I do think Gibbs is just a little bit of a trap. I feel like Gibbs is Swiftian. It feels a lot like DeAndre Swift, and people are going to be like, oh, he's going to be a bell cow, and he's not quite a bell cow, but he's a really good player and is going to score. His overall,
I can just see him going to the Chiefs and having kind of a Clyde Edwards-Helaire feel. But here's the thing: Clyde Edwards-Helaire was not so productive in college. He was more landing spot than production. Put it that way.
Yes.
He's solid. Gibbs would be a dangerous mixture of both. He would get in the Bijan Robinson conversation with that landing spot, maybe.
He should.
Not whether you would or you wouldn't. I can see it being.
Well, I've
Kansas City.
I've seen on Twitter that there are multiple teams who have him graded above Bijan, which leads me to believe that his agent is doing some overtime work there. But
yeah, there's a lot of interesting stories. Nick, context for my first question. I can't remember what it was, Nick. I'm sorry. My wide receivers are AJ Brown, DK London. Okay, so all the good wide receivers. He's even got MT on the back there. He's also got the 101, so Bijan Robinson, Herbert, okay, it goes downhill quickly. But yeah, sure. Herbert, Dillon, Jamal Williams, and Samaje
Piron's going to be like that. Could be interesting in Denver. Like like it really could be. Like I snagged him in a startup later, and I'm not unhappy about it.
Okay. He has the 101. He has all the first picks in each round. Any move recommendations? Not off the top of my head. Draft Bijan Robinson, get the best player at each of those other picks, and your team's set to compete by the look of it. Where are the tight ends? I can't see the tight ends. I don't see anyone I'm desperately looking to move or anything like that. Actually, it seems draft the best player.
I think the two players that if I were going to make moves, it would be off T. Higgins and DK. And again, not that you're actively looking to trade them, but you could tier up. You could do something where maybe you want to bolster your running back group, so you end up going after either McCaffrey or Breece Hall, that sort of thing. But you're not necessarily like, this is not a team that
in Dynasty we don't typically move wide receivers for scoring running backs. You could do that in season. Again, right. I hate to tell you the answer is no, nothing.
Sit tight, yeah.
Sometimes the best move is to sit tight. Honestly, this looks like a roster. You draft Bijan Robinson, you try and get a running back at the 201 spot.
Yep.
Competitive. You can go win. Eric, thanks for the help. I hope it is a help.
Always.
We're just talking. We're just out here talking. On the first day of Draftmas, would you hope your favorite NFL team drafts? I don't have a favorite NFL team. I know, I'm so boring. I'm a Raven fan. That's fun and cool. I'm wishing for Quentin Johnson. I think that'd be a good spot for Quentin. I don't know what to expect from that offense. I had a lot of changes on team and scheme expectation. God, I hope they pass.
Yeah, I was just saying, I just hope they let Lamar Jackson throw because he can. I'm a Patriots fan, so I am super excited about the Patriots trading back into the third round, getting 4 future seconds, and that's pretty much what
I would like to see the Ravens do something at wide receiver. To your point, like they got a great tight end. I think Bateman's a really good player, but I think he can do stuff. But I don't think he's going to lead the team in passing, like elevate the team in passing by himself. I think he's a really good player that helps the team, not that whatever. So that could be good. And Quentin Johnson's definitely has a skill set that might, because polar opposite to Bateman. Addison to the Chargers is a draft pick I've seen projected, and honestly, that sounded really exciting to me. Herbert with Addison, lights out. Like, I was really excited about that idea. I would like to see that happen, but I don't have a favorite NFL team, so I'll just roll out that. I guess I'm a Chargers fan for a second, but I think that would be sexy and hot. Not that I wouldn't hate it for Palmer, who I do like, but I would love it Jordan Addison and the Chargers and everyone around them because they would help each other. Richard, is there any scenario you would take JSN instead of Bijan? We're just talking hypothetical. Like Bijan Robinson falls to the third round behind Saquon Barkley. That's the type of thing we're talking about. Bijan Robinson has to get injured or fall in the draft significantly.
It's break ties to running backs always in rookie drafts, and I don't think that this is a tie. Sorry, did I startle you? I'm breaking news. Bijan Robinson is real good. Put that in your spreadsheets.
Yeah, I know it sucks because we've known it for so long, but or we thought we knew it and then we knew it. And yeah, I would love to be contrarian and say, actually, JSN is better than him right now. But no. You can take a quarterback over him in Superflex if you really wanted to. It's a solid process to do it, but I don't think I do. No. I mean, outside of an extreme draft form, I can't think of anything. Nick, also have Gabe Davis. Trade that guy. You can trade that guy. You're not wait for him to score 3 touchdowns and then trade.
Yeah, you're not getting anything for him yet.
Andrew, do you feel like there is a line between which rookie picks you'd sell whole before the NFL draft? Well, some of which I didn't know there was, but talking some of these questions out, yeah, I think if you want to trade into that early second round for running backs, I think it's more interested to try and do it right now because I think it's going to be harder to get in there once people get there in their draft and like, oh, this is a tier. And I think people might not realize that before the draft and so on and so forth. And also moving up, like going in on what you think is going to happen, because that's a risk. You're willing to take risk on one in the top 4. People are willing to sell you that risk a little bit more than once the draft happens. It's going to be a lot more locked in.
Shameless plug, Andrew, for the Dynasty Dummies podcast. This past week, episode 240, we talked about trading into that range between 207 and the 210 because I think that this draft is going to shake things up and make those picks more valuable. Right now, they're a little less valuable. The other thing, and Peter just said it, I think after the 210, so 211, 111, 112 and beyond, I think that there's a real big tier. So you can move back from 111, 112 into the early second, maybe pick up another pick later and not be any worse off. So those are the two places I think that there is quite a bit of value. I think the 110, 111, 112 are probably overvalued. Maybe not the 110. 111, 112 are probably overvalued. I think the 107, 108, 109, 110 are probably undervalued right now. And probably that early second 201 to 204, 205 is probably undervalued.
It's getting harder and harder to find an edge in being quicker because the market's speeding up. The better we get at Dynasty, the better ADP get, the quicker people want to move instead of waiting for that third-year breakout, for example. But this is still an area where it's possible. If you're willing to set tiers, and you can give yourself leeway because rookie drafts are basically the Wild West in terms of certainty and hit rates, and every class is different. But if you can set pretty good tiers, you can more actively trade into them if you're willing to take the risk that your tiers are more accurate. And I think that describes both that range that Zach's describing and that top 4. Like the draft could happen and there's a top 1 and then just a big old tier down to the third round. Like the draft can literally do anything to these things. And so you're honestly taking a risk by willing to trade at value right now before the draft, and you can get trades done that way. Honestly, I think right now most leagues are going to be in the, it's tomorrow, dude. I'm just going to see what's happening. I'm just going to see what happens. That's mostly where my leagues are. But every league's different. Every manager's different. Chris, great show, gents. I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you. Ryan, random question. Do we have any interest in Irv Smith? I have never had interest in Irv Smith. Literally. I'm inviting the Irv Smith fight for a minute. I think he's solid. He's a good tight end. He's doing wonders for the teams he's on. I don't think it's going to evolve for fantasy more than we've seen.
Like you don't care about tight ends after about the top 4. And if you really want to make Peter happy, we can care down to the top 6.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I got you.
Nick, should I try and do Muth plus picks players for Hawkinson trade? No, you're trading into the same tier. Yeah, and Muth is younger. I had this discussion on Twitter a little while ago, and I actually thought it came out with some good answers. Like, if you want youth, trade into Muth. If you want points upside, trade back into Waller because he's valued further down than most of these guys. If you want difference-making, positional advantage, and flexibility right now, you trade into Kittle. Hawkinson falls in this range where he's getting ranked above Kittle because he's young, but he's never had the upside Kittle's had. And so it makes Kittle the guy that you should probably trade for rather than Muth. Whereas if what you like about Hawkinson is youth, you can trade back into Pitts is a little exaggeration. I think he's a floating value right now. You don't get him lower. But I think Muth is solid if you just want a younger tight end. And if you want more points upside, you can't get up to Kittle because whatever, you don't like points. I think Waller has the most upside for his current ADP. Or if you want that next great big thing, then you trade into sophomore tight ends, Trey McBride right now, or try and get into a range where you can draft one this year. That's where I'm at. Like, Hawkinson never makes a target list because I think he's just Hawkinson. I'd rather have Goddard, who's a little lower than him as well, and is about the same thing, fantasy-wise. Obviously, very different players and people, I would assume. Yeah. And Zach's just like, I just want Andrews. Just stop talking about the other guys. Just give me
That's
Andrews.
the one.
And he's not wrong. That's the annoying part. B-Dags, 12 teams who flex start 10. Would you trade Trey Lance, 110, 111, to the team who owns Purdy as a QB2 for Olave and his 24 first? Yes. Sorry to read this question. Just got. Did I skip you? Sorry, bud. That's fine. Ask as many times as you need to. I didn't mean to skip you. Yeah, I would do this trade. It's Lance in the 10 and 11.
I think Peter purposefully skipped you.
Probably.
Like that seems like a Peter move to me.
That's yeah.
He's just like, no, B-Dags, no, skip.
He probably said something nasty about Juju at one point, and now I'm just disrespecting him. No, what are your thoughts on Devontae Smith? Pretty good. Not AJ Brown, but pretty good. And AJ Brown and DeAndre Smith was a fun thing to see last year. And it kind of feels like he's reached. I don't think he's going to evolve from this point. We've seen what Devontae Smith is. It's pretty impressive. It's good. We should value it in fantasy. I don't think we're seeing the beginnings of something greater.
Right. But the cool thing is he's basically Jalen Waddle, which is fun. Like the wide receiver 2 on a team who can be a wide receiver 1 in scoring.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a bad thing to have.
Top 15 upside, constant reminder that everyone should ignore BMI. Like, I like him. I like him a lot, if just for that. Lunging Bear, thank you for the advice. Just thoughts, but advice seems to make it sound way more sophisticated than it is. But you're welcome.
Oh, I would love that.
Would you... What? My eyes are dead.
What would be your take if Addison goes in the first round to Minnesota and is a wide receiver 2 with Justin Jefferson?
Love it.
Absolutely.
To your point, Tyreek Hill and Waddle, and you've got Chase and Higgins, and then I would like that a lot. I would like the JJ and Addison. Let's go. I would like that a lot.
Yeah, that was the DM to you earlier, where you had the Addison to San Diego, and I said I want him to go there or to Minnesota.
Yep, I like that.
He to me reminds
I'm not scared of two.
He reminds me so much of Waddle, Smith. He doesn't play as strong as at the catch point as Smith, but he reminds me so much of that type of player that if he could be on a team where there is a 1, he is going to absolutely shine as a 2.
I'm not scared of good players being on the same team, especially at wide receiver. The ball goes, as long as the ball is going around enough. That's been Baltimore's problem. When they pass a lot, the wide receivers do really well because they're good. And when they don't, artificially decreasing the number of times they pass, even though the wide receivers still in the target share they should, they don't. And that's what it's been pretty easy to predict based on that. So yeah, I like that. Tyler Sperry, would you trade the 109 and ETN for Jonathan Taylor? Yes, yeah, definitely.
So Jonathan Taylor had a terrible year by Jonathan Taylor standards and put up points per game the same as what ETN did. Like he's a bell cow in a league where there aren't bell cows. He's a bell cow.
Would you have him? Do you have him above or behind Breece Hall? I think
I get him behind Breece Hall, but that's just kind of. I think Breece Hall's a bell cow also, but I think he's a little bit younger.
Fair. He's been injured. He's a year younger. Yeah. It's come see, come saw. Take whichever one's cheaper, I guess.
Yep.
I don't know why I tried French. I shouldn't have done that.
Bonsoir.
I guess that's about it before the draft, guys.
Pete.
Thanks very much. See you next time.
Look over there.